You are listening to a Dynamicworksproductions podcast. This show is available on iTunes, Stitcher Radio Network, and many, many more podcast services around the world. You can find all our content, music, videos, books, podcasts, and more on our website, www.dynamicworksproductions.com. Have questions, comments, or concerns for us? Head on over to the social tab on www.dynamicworksproductions.com if you'd like to talk to us. Now, on with the show. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Fork in Your Ear podcast. I'm your host, as always, author, podcaster, gamer, less so streamer, and also recently less so AI artistry-ness, Tim K. Trotter. Joining me, as always, from his less lit room than usual due to probably reasons.
Yes.
The Californianist of foos, Nate Foo.
How's it going this evening, my dear co-host?
It's not bad. Disagree. Hard disagree. See, now, if we were live streaming, I could at least attest to the fact that you are doing just as much behind the scenes technical work as I am. But since we're doing the old standby, I don't think so, champ.
Okay.
That ain't it.
I have been known to poke you in the ribs from time to time, and I know exactly which button to push.
Well, people tend to get that way when they've podcasted with me for a certain amount of time. Spend that amount of time with anybody, you'll get to know some rib pokery goodness.
Yes.
And here we go. We have landed on. I hit the wrong button and my screens all go away. We've landed on air, actually.
Okay. So that would be video games.
Video games. Yeah, I was getting to that.
Okay. That's funny. After all the RNG-ness of the Ring, video games tended to be the last, and it's been coming
rarely rolls.
Yeah, it's been coming up early a lot lately.
I mean, that's okay. That's okay. I'm okay with that. Not a ton of video game news out in the world. As of this recording, Saturday, January 28th, 2023, the Dead Space Remake has landed to massive critical, commercial, and fan acclaim. And I have spent the last 4.5 hours playing said Dead Space Remake as a self-professed Dead Space superfan.
Okay.
Consumed all the content of that universe, was very sad when the team got murdered, and very, very, very cautiously optimistic about a remake being handled by a completely different team and a completely different engine with none of the original talent to touch it, since they're all over on Callisto Protocol.
Sure.
So we'll get into that in a bit. The other thing was we had an Xbox Direct.
Mm-hmm.
I did not watch it live. I I read the transcript, and actually, right before the show, I was watching the Forza Motorsport thing
Mhm.
that they had on it, but didn't get to finish. So that's all I know. You might actually be better equipped to
Which
discuss this than I.
yes and no, because,
Did you watch it, or
I I
did you?
did watch it while I was at work,
Okay,
and it was like,
all right.
"Oh, hey, I happen to have a break, and this is
Mm-hmm.
gonna be a long one. I have 10 minutes to watch it," and I managed to catch the one thing I wanted to see, which was I wanted to see that Forza remake after playing Horizon. Um,
So is that what it is? I was super confused. It's like, okay, so they're calling it Forza Motorsport, but it's like for like again, I only saw like 4 minutes
mhm.
of that video, um, out of context. And I know they're calling it Forza Motorsport. So it's a remake,
No, no,
or
no,
is
no,
it
no.
like a soft reboot?
It is, Forza has always had 2, well, not always, but it's split into 2 kind of, genres of the franchise. Forza
Right. You have
Motorsport, which
Motorsport,
your
which is.
yeah, which is your
Mm-hmm.
simulation, and then Horizon, which
Mm-hmm.
is your simcade,
Mm-hmm.
right? And for a while there, like, Motorsport led Horizon in its releases as a,
Mm-hmm.
I guess as a technical platform.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you'd get Motorsport, and then Horizon would come out borrowing some of that tech.
Mm-hmm.
For whatever
Mm-hmm.
reason, Horizon came out earlier this year, which earlier than Motorsport, and I was kind of
Mm-hmm.
shocked at that. I think I mentioned that back when it came out. I was like, usually you get a Motorsport announcement and then Horizon. And when you and I were playing it shortly after that stream, we're just, marveling at the uh, technicalness, um,
Sure.
the
The
sheer beauty.
technical accoutrement.
Accoutrement,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
Everything from the sound design to the modeling and I
Yeah.
remember
It's
saying,
insane.
I can't wait to see what Motorsport looks like when it's not open world.
Having seen 4 minutes of that footage, apparently bat shit
Yeah, yeah.
insanely sim me.
Hmm.
Like photogrammetry to paint flex?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. They've actually gotten the what do they call that? Now I can't even
World
think of it.
global illumination ray tracing? Okay,
Yes,
that's pretty
yes.
impressive,
The ray
honestly,
tracing down to
considering.
where they can render the reflections in the paint flecks of the
Yeah,
vehicles.
and dynamic paint vehicles and temperatures of tracks
Mhm.
relating to rubber, and I was like,
Right.
"Okay."
Track to track, lap to lap
Yeah,
rubber
yeah,
as more rubber gets laid on the track dynamics
yeah.
change. As the heat of the track, yes.
That's interesting.
And, yeah, where
That's interesting, sure.
dirt accumulation should occur, based off of wind tunnel testings. Um, yeah.
Wild.
Yeah, they threw everything they had in their, quiver at this game, and it looks amazing. I'm stoked
It
to play
does.
that. I was like,
It
this
does
is the
indeed.
one I want to see. Give me like the event led with Minecraft Legends, which I guess is introducing a PvEVP
So,
mode.
I actually did see that,
Hmm.
but it was, like, minimized in my pocket, and I kind of tuned into it, like, here and there. It looks fine, I
Hmm.
guess.
It looks like they changed the art
Sure.
style around a little bit. It's got that
A little bit.
kind of cell shaded thing going on for it.
A
Yeah,
little.
I was
It's not so much it doesn't look like Minecraft.
right, but it doesn't look like
Um,
Minecraft. But it does, but it doesn't. Like, it's Minecraft, but it's kind of when I first
eh,
saw it, I went, okay, that's a choice.
sure.
Not a bad
Yeah,
choice.
yeah. Um, yeah, so I guess that's out in March, I guess I was. Is that what?
Minecraft, yes. Forza did not get a
Yeah.
release date.
Yeah, no release date for that. We have a release date for Redfall.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't see anything on Redfall, so if there's something to say about it, speak now.
Not really. It's a thing.
It's
Apparently,
coming.
Yeah, apparently it's from what I was reading of the reviews for it, they go, "So this is what the latest gen hardware is putting out, huh?"
Mm. Yeah, well, but I mean, it's got its own stylized kind of look. So it's
Yeah,
like it's not trying to hit any kind of particular. It's that kind of arcane looking game, for
right.
lack of a better term,
Mhm.
which is just kind of this slightly askew realism ish take on life.
Right.
But beyond that, I don't know anything about it other than it's co op and it's open world and it
Mhm.
has missions and it's PVE with I can't remember. Does it have a PvP
I don't
element
recall, I
to
couldn't
it?
tell you. Why am I getting Windows system sound? Sorry, it's going crazy, I'm
Hmm.
hearing this dink. It won't come out on my track, but I'm hearing it,
Okay.
so
Okay.
I'm not supposed to.
Well, you know what I hear on my Mac? Nothing.
Yes. And then I guess the
um.
other game that they showed that released at the end
Yeah, that
of it
day.
that
Yeah, it's
day,
out now.
was a rhythm fighting game.
My understanding is it's like skating. Is it supposed to be like a spiritual successor to Jet Set Radio?
Kind of, but not like you battle on beat, but you don't.
Like I said,
Yeah,
I read the product drop descriptions of things.
yeah. It
I
looked
didn't
really
watch
cool.
much things.
And they
It's out.
yeah, one of
It's
the,
on Game
I
Pass.
actually wanted to try it just because it kind of looks cool. But one of the things they were saying
Mm,
on it is like, yes, it's a rhythm battler, and I'm like, okay. And as they're going through the presentation, going, in the interest of accessibility and everything, you actually don't have to be on beat, but you kind of have to be on
mm,
beat. But we're not going to penalize you for being off beat. You can still play the game, but you really like it
yeah.
if you play it on beat. I'm going, I don't know what you're getting at there.
The game is rhythm based.
Right.
You better be hitting the rhythms.
Right.
Like that's pretty much what you need to say.
And again, being a proponent for accessibility, that's all great and all that, you're allowing anyone to play it. But then that kind of defeats the purpose of it being rhythm based.
Mm, indeed.
So, but yeah, I actually am looking forward to trying that one. But
Okay.
like considering the last time I turned my computer on was for our last episode of Fork, uh, you, you can,
So that's what all the Windows dinging's for.
yes.
These
Yeah.
2 weeks of updates you didn't get.
No, 2 weeks of emails
Mm.
that are suddenly coming through. Come on. It's going to drive me crazy.
Well, and they're
Can you
probably
just
like, "Hey,
give me all the
you
notifications at the
need
same time?
you need an update for the email because we moved all of our cloud shit."
Okay, I think I might have found it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, in the interim of Nate finding it, what you been playing in the last 2 weeks there, Nate?
Well, again, as I just said, considering I just turned this computer on for the first time in 2 weeks, I hadn't
Mm-hmm.
been playing nothing. I've been watching people play things.
Oh, you've been watching people play
Hmm.
things. What you been watching people play?
I've been trying to keep up with the Destiny storyline because haven't played that, and I'm surviving on podcasts to keep up with the storyline. So,
Mm. I haven't even seen a by video. I am not caught up. I have no idea what's going on. The only thing I know is I guess this last Tuesday they royally fucked up and they had to roll back an update and
oh
like some
yeah,
people's characters got deleted and it was a fucking shit show
yeah,
apparently.
yeah.
That's all I know.
Someone shit the bed big time. Um,
Yikes.
yeah, in an effort to try to push some features early before Lightfall, just to make sure that they were good. Found
Mhm.
out that they weren't, and I'm kind of glad they got them out of the way now, considering we're
Sure.
40-ish days away from the next major release of the
40.
game. Yeah, yeah.
Are we though?
Well,
It's sooner than that.
February 22nd?
21, I believe.
21? Okay.
Unless I'm wrong. I'll look it up right now.
So, but yeah, basically borked the game. People weren't getting any progress. Wow, that like that.
28,
Yeah, 28th. Okay.
by the way.
Things got really messed up. Progress wasn't being tracked. A couple of people reported the characters were lost.
Yep.
So yeah, they had to put the whole thing on hold, and yeah, that was fun watching my normal Destiny streamers go. Well, I'm either not going to stream today. One of them actually broke out and streamed Destiny 1, which
Dang.
actually
That's
was
a thing.
kind of nice to go back and see, all the people, all the complaints that you hear about Destiny 2, and watching someone play Destiny 1, and it's like, oh wait, yeah, we don't have these things.
Mm,
Oh, we can't
yeah.
even mantle onto ledges.
Oof.
Right? The sparrows are so slow.
Mm. Yeah, because they were designed around data transfer speeds of a PS3 and an Xbox 360. That's
hmm
why.
And yeah, capped at 30 frames per second, capped at a short field of view. And he
I mean, in fairness to Destiny console
and he had
players, they were
started
capped at
and he
30
had
frames a
started
second
at
until the next gen consoles.
yeah, he
So,
rolled a new tune, so it was he was starting from scratch, and it was like, oh, I don't even have a super right now.
man, a new tune. What is
Yes.
this, World of Warcraft?
Yes. So
uh, well,
I did
I have
manage I
played.
did manage to
Oh,
update that Stadia controller to be Bluetooth only, and it works.
how's that? How's that working out for you? Good.
It actually
It's good.
works on my phone. It does not work,
Good.
however, on my laptop as a
Yikes.
usable controller for Game Pass.
Well,
Yeah,
I feel like Microsoft's trying to tell you something.
right?
You can use an Xbox controller. You can use a Nintendo Switch controller and a PS4 or 5 controller. Get that Google Stadia shit out of here. That's what it's saying. Um, so looking back as far as what I played, I have played approximately, counting on my fingers here, folks. Give me a second.
And a 7, carry the 5.
Four games in the past 2 weeks. I've still been squeezing in some very late night Elden Ring with
hmm
my friend Killbot. He's getting close to some end game stuff. That's good. It's always good fun. Not much else to say there, other than I crossed the 100-hour fucking mark on my PS5 character, which I think puts me at like fucking some disgusting like 500 hours I've put into Elden Ring between 2 versions of the game.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's disgusting. But you know, I just fucking enjoy it. Like, I don't know what else to say. Like, I just fucking enjoy it. And God help me if the DLC is both announced and comes out this year. Um, yep. I tried a new game on my phone, which I'm aware is also out on console and Switch and stuff now. Apple Arcade, Shovel Knight Dig. What a charming little game.
I've
I
heard
should have
nothing but
expected as
good things
much.
about the Shovel Knight series, so
Yeah, Dig's a different beast. It's a mobile first designed fella, whereas the other Shovel Knights, and I've played most of them,
hmm
are like classic Mega Man-y side scrollers,
okay.
for lack of a better term. Like a modern but looks classic, has a fantastic chiptune soundtrack. Shovel Knight Dig is So you have 4 inputs. You have a movement left and right. You have a dig button, and you have a use item button on screen because I'm playing on Apple
Okay.
Arcade, so it's on iOS. And you're digging downwards through these, I think they're procedurally generated, like, kind of things.
Okay.
And it's kind of roguelike, and you're trying to get as much treasure as you can. And but there's bosses, but there's upgrades, but you don't get to keep them if you die, kind of thing. And it's like, you know, I mean, it's obviously designed for mobile, so it has that kind of like, ooh, this is fun, this is interesting, this is cool, and then put it in your pocket and forget about it,
Right.
and then resume later, kind of thing. But I put a decent amount into it, and it is indeed fun. My only complaint about it is really just the fact that the game is like very it's still Shovel Knight-y for those who've played them, with like needing to be specific with your inputs so as to not avoid death. And I find that that can be a little bit cumbersome with touchscreen controls.
Okay.
Um,
Makes sense.
so, you know, that's just kind of comes with the territory of that kind of thing.
Right.
And I'm sure I could hook up a controller to it. And like I said, I know it is also out on consoles as well. Um, but I'll be damned if that soundtrack is not fucking catchy as fuck. Like like the Shovel Knight games have had a traditionally like really good, really catchy chiptune score, and this one is no exception. Like I find myself like sometimes I'll just like boot it up just to hear the music of the
Sure.
fucking thing. So there's that. Um Last week and a little bit this week, Monster Hunter Rise came out to all the other consoles that are not
Hmm.
its launch console, which is Switch, and it's since come to PC. And I've put a little bit of time into that, and that is simultaneously fun and frustrating and a little bit depressing.
Okay.
I say it's fun because I have always wanted to play Monster Hunter Rise with friends. I played the beta and I've played Monster Hunter World with friends. Of course, the sad part is in order to play with my friends, I needed to pick up the PlayStation copy, which does not have cross save or cross play,
So.
even though it's free on Game Pass right now.
Hmm.
So I bit that bullet and have played with friends. And since the game was originally made for the Switch, it, expectedly looks and runs beautifully 4K 60 blah 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 blah. Since it was originally made for a low spec console.
Right.
So it runs great. Um Man, Monster Hunter is just one of those games you can't like just pick up a new entry and get back into unless you're like maybe that's the only kind of game you play. Because coming from like Elden Ring to Monster Hunter, like I was fucking struggling with the controls.
Okay.
Like I felt like an old person and an
Is
old
it
man
is it markedly
shaking my
different than like Monster Hunter World? Because I haven't played any Monster Hunter
no.
entry other than World.
It's it's an evolution of the world's formula for the most part.
Okay.
I'm told by other Monster Hunter people that it is perhaps borrows many, 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 many elements from World, but is perhaps a more traditional Monster Hunter experience, as I'm told.
Okay.
I don't know what that means exactly. It feels basically like a World like
Probably in the
Monster
build
Hunter.
crafting trees.
I don't know. So I'm excited to play it with friends, but I find, man, the learning curve to get back into the controls most difficult. Was most difficult for me. And then even once I got the hang of it, um, I feel like right now with Monster Hunter Rise, like I enjoy everything about it except for playing it.
Okay.
That's where I am on it right now.
That's
And
about how
I
I felt
feel
about
like
World. Like I loved being in the world.
sure.
I loved walking around in it, and then I had to play it. Like actually play it, and I
Mm.
went, okay.
Well, and I don't think that it's the controls are bad or anything like that. Like I think the controls are very good. There's a lot of stuff to it. I feel like each session I'm like, I'm making like 10% closer towards okay, I'm into the game and it's fun and I'm understanding how to control the thing and I'm having a good time.
Hmm.
And I'm just not quite there yet.
Right.
And so that's
Yeah,
that's
with
really
World, it much like I felt with Diablo. Once you got to a point
mm,
where you were over leveled, then the game got fun,
mm, okay.
right?
Yeah, we'll see what happens here. We'll see what happens here.
Sure.
Since my PlayStation group is very much playing it. Although it's not going to happen this week because doing dinner with the wife on our usual Tuesday night game night because it's the wife's birthday.
Yay.
So,
Happy birthday to
yeah.
her.
But then something that did please me greatly and that I was able to play today is the Dead Space Remake. Now, for those listening at home or in the car or working, I have probably stated many times that I am a huge Dead Space fan.
Hmm.
I replay Dead Space 1 and sometimes 2 almost every Halloween. If I can manage to get some poor soul to actually play Dead Space 3, which is co-op or co-opable with me, I will fucking do so.
Cross-platform or
Um,
no?
hmm?
Cross-platform or no?
On Dead Space 3,
Yes.
considering the game came out before cross-platform, no,
I didn't know if it was updated. Hey, I figured I'd ask.
it's
What
not.
do you have it on?
Everything's playable back compat on Xbox, and all 3 of the originals are available on Game Pass.
Okay. Well, then maybe
So,
I might be that sucker because I do have an
I mean,
Xbox.
it's not gonna run that bad on your Xbox since
Right.
it's an old game.
Right. I've played it
Um,
on my Xbox. It's been a
okay,
long time,
well,
so
there you go. So yeah, so I've played Dead Space 1 more times than I can count. I've completed it on Impossible on the OG
oh,
version.
now you're just showing
Um,
off.
I've played Dead Space Extraction, both the Wii version and I want to say 360 version. I've seen the little animated movies. I've read the dumb books. I've read the comics. I'm probably one of the few people on the planet who actually played and completed the Dead Space mobile game, which honestly should get its own fucking port because it's fucking fantastic.
Mhm.
Fantastic, and
Yep.
it's like a full experience.
I played it as well.
Um, Big fan of Dead Space.
Mhm.
So when the news hit on Friday that not only did they not fuck it up, but that it was now the definitive version of Dead
Really?
Space, I was like, oh man, that's some big words, uh GameSpot, IGN, Game Informer, they were all saying, I was like, okay. I was like, oh, let me go to some of the interwebs through, some streamers and podcasters and
Right.
stuff. And then they too were like,
Yeah, when you get
praise
get outside of
be
the
the
paid
Dead
reviews.
Space
Yeah.
remake.
Okay.
And everybody else and their dog is just like, yep, it's fucking awesome. Unless you bought the PS5 version. And I was like, huh, that's funny. I'm glad I got it
this
on
keep coming
Xbox.
up? Why does this like How many times have we said this in the video game segment of this show at this point? That the PS5 version, for whatever reason, ain't it.
Well, so apparently, and I didn't experience this because I got it on my Series X, because
Smart man.
that's where I primarily have played my Dead Space experience.
Mhm.
You know, so apparently, Dead Space on Series X and PC has variable rate shading. So all of their darks and all the shadows and stuff look as appropriately HDR and awesome and dynamic as they should with
Mhm.
a next generation remake of Dead Space. And the PS5 does not have variable rate shading, and people are complaining of how fucking dark it is, and they can't see shit like it's a Game of Thrones episode on HBO.
I was gonna say that.
Yeah. They I
God.
guess somebody from EA Motive, who's the studio who did handle the remake, has said that they're aware it's a bug. A patch is coming soon.
And this isn't something you
So,
could just bump up the brightness like a lot of games I play. They're
mm-mm,
just really dark, and
nope.
the pregame.
No, it's literally an error with the shading.
Oh, so it's just pixels aren't
That
there
is
too light. Yeah.
specific to the PS5 version,
God.
and
Come
they
on.
launched it anyway. You know,
Oh, they knew it was like that?
I guess.
I
I
mean,
mean,
you think they would kind of have to.
yeah, sure they do. Anyway, I'm sure they'll fix it since it's a brand new game. Well, brand new remake of a game. I've put approximately 4.5 hours in. I'm on chapter 4. So roughly about not quite to halfway through the game.
It's
And
completable in
actually,
an 8 to 10? That's not bad.
it's always been completable in about 8 to 12.
Okay,
Was always the Dead Space original kind of runtime.
cool.
Um, so the remake does some very interesting things. So it is an odd duck in that it is sometimes so verbatimly a identical shot for shot remake of the original. But then sometimes you'll hit a thing and be like, "Oh, this is new."
Okay.
Or, "Oh, this is better."
So, as
And
someone
that's
in my
really
case
interesting.
that has only played 3 and the mobile, this might actually
Mhm.
be I'm not gonna come across these shot for shots, is what you're saying.
No, not if you're not unless you're intimately familiar with the original.
Okay.
And then to put that in perspective, today, while the game was downloading this morning, and my wife was sitting at my feet doing schoolwork, I fired up the original Dead Space. Hit new game. I was like, all right, I want to see the opening. I want to see exactly for myself, like
Right, am I
how it's gonna
remembering this
be.
right? Yeah.
Right. And even though I did play the whole fucking game last October, I just wanted to have it fresh in my head when I went in, so I knew exactly what was up. Um, so I played the original, which is the best way to play the original, which is on Series X with its jerry rigged 60 frames a second, AI, auto HDR, quick loading, aniscopic filtered, all the shit that the 360 couldn't possibly do.
Mhm.
Um, and apart from people's hairs, it's still a pretty fucking good looking game. I gotta admit, still at the very least, if nothing else, then some very hard contact dynamic shadows and that sort of thing. The fucking art design in that game is just it's just still fucking on point. And so I played, I think, about through chapter 1, and of course, bloop, Dead Space Remake ready to play. I'm like, all right,
Mm.
here we go.
Let's do this.
And I watched all the reviews and stuff the last day, so I knew going in that Um, some of the story has been rejiggered
Okay.
for the purposes of not just the remake, but also because Isaac Clarke, the main character you play in Dead Space, who was never voiced in Dead Space 1,
Mhm.
is voiced in the Dead Space remake. Thankfully, he is the original actor from Dead Space 2 and 3. So you're like, all right, yep, it's Isaac Clarke.
Okay.
That's the dude. It's the voice actor. Bravo.
Right.
And they do a thing in this game where he only speaks when spoken to, because in the original game he's a silent protagonist kind of thing.
Right.
He's very much your Gordon Freeman
Mhm.
type of thing. Um, and in this, the opening cutscene of the original is, there's a military commander and there's a tech chick, and they're like, all right, we're going to the Shimura, and it's a planet cracker, and they're telling you, because you're silent in the original, oh yeah, I'm sure you're glad to get on this job because you're looking for your wife who's gone missing,
Mhm.
and we got to do these things, and then they crash on the deck, and then like, oh, we got to figure out what's up. Really, it is really kind of a boilerplate generic stuff.
Mhm.
Anybody who's seen the movie inspiration for Dead Space, it is very, very, very much in the vein of Event Horizon. If you've seen that 80s, 90s film, I think it's the 90s,
Probably 90s.
something like that. It's very much, they were like, hey, how come nobody ever made Event Horizon?
Mhm.
Fuck it. We'll make it kind of into a game.
Okay.
A game that's spawned 3 sequels, a remake, and numerous spin-offs and all that sort of stuff. And then EA mercilessly killed in 2011. Yeah. And then that was sort of it. Whereas in the remake, they're talking directly to Isaac Clarke, and Isaac Clarke is like saying, like talking back to them and stuff. And the way I kind of look at it is, it's it's like a movie remake with the same actors, but with like, whoever's directing it and is like doing the scripting of the dialogue, but they're like, let's make it just a little more real and grounded
Mhm.
and like more subtle to the approach. And that's pretty much the route they go with any of the dialogue changes and stuff. Not that 2008 Dead Space was bad by any means. Like, it wasn't like a B movie type script. But, it was like it had a script that was like a horror movie of the 2008s,
Mhm.
you know? And I guess just, modernly, people are more used to things being a little more subdued, being a little more serious, and a little more natural, I guess, in both the delivery, the acting, the cinematography. And that's pretty much kind of a pretty good way to communicate this Dead Space remake.
Right. They let the
Um
scene tell the story as much as the dialogue.
yeah, and so all of the dialogue changes are very much in that approach. And one of the interesting things that they communicate right off the rip, which I don't believe was part of the original story at all, was there's some dialogue between one of the gals and Isaac. And, for those who are anywhere familiar with Dead Space, it has to do with space aliens and like an evil church like cult called Unitology. And in the remake, which wasn't part of the original Dead Space, there's some offhanded comment of, oh, I think most of the crew here on the USG Samora, which is where the game takes place, um, which is a planet cracking mining rig
Mhm.
spaceship thing. Um, they're like, oh, a lot of the crew was, devout Unitologists and believers and stuff. And then they're like, oh, hey, Isaac, wasn't your mom a believer? And then he's like, yeah, she was until she got killed. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. Because like they never at any point is his family backstory ever brought up
Right.
in the original. And I was like, okay, that's interesting. And then in one of the text logs, they were talking about like why Isaac got the job, other than the fact that he he pined for the job to like go look for his wife on the ship because she's stationed on here as like the medical biologist, psychologist, or something like
Mhm.
that on the ship. And it was not only is he an engineer, because you're not playing a space marine in Dead Space, you're playing a fucking space engineer, which is awesome. um just some little other like color backstory thing is like, oh, he comes from like a family of engineers, and his dad like was one of the ones who built one of the first planet crackers or some shit like that. And I was like, okay, that's kind of a cute little, like a neat little new wrinkle to
Sure, kind of
this
validates why
universe.
he was chosen and
Yeah,
not just, "Oh,
yeah.
yeah,
Whereas
this guy."
whereas in the first game, it's like, yeah, this guy, yeah, you got a wife here, and you're an engineer. Go on.
Right.
Get to it. And it's like, okay, all right, I can get behind, that kind of stuff, and it's interesting because it's like they, like I said, it's such a fine line between like a remake in the style of Resident Evil 2 remake, where it's like, oh, it's a 100% Resident Evil 2, but better in every conceivable way.
Mhm.
But like, oh, I remember there being an enemy right here, and it's like, is my memory still correct? Oh, yep,
There he
there's the
is.
enemy
Right.
right there. This is the corner. Okay, cool. Like, got it. You know. And so I'm moving through the game at a pretty good pace, since everything is pretty familiar to me until it's not. And so one of the new wrinkles they've thrown into a lot of the usual situations is, um, you're like the basic thing in the first Dead Space is you're fixing this broken ass ship.
Mhm.
And it's always like, go to engineering, hook up the fucking power couplers, fucking manually fucking get out and fucking push the fucking thing that starts the engine core, get
Mhm.
attacked by monsters, find thing to fix thing. Don't die.
Right.
Like that's basically the gist of the game, and some, sci-fi bullshit plot thrown in. And a new wrinkle in the remake is like one of the very first areas. You're like trying to get the fuel pump back online for the ship. And it's like, okay, I know I need to go over here. I know I need to get on this gondola. I know this enemy's going to pop up here. I know this, and this, and this is going to happen. Okay, yep, that's exactly as I remember. And then I got to the end of starting the fuel pump. And then I'm like, I remember hitting a button and the fuel pump starts. And I'm like looking around like, this is not what's supposed to happen now. What do I do? And I like kind of bum around the area a little bit. And then I find a circuit breaker. And I'm like, you're new. What do you do? And then they're like, you can divert power from the lights, oxygen, or to like the doors that you go through. And I was like, okay. And since
I
the game
need
already
yeah,
has
I need oxygen. I need
well,
life support. I don't
so the
need
game already
lights to live in a horror
the
game.
the game already has an oxygen mechanic, right? So you
Mhm.
have an oxygen meter, and you go out in, dead space and all this sort of stuff.
Mhm.
So it's like, well, I think I'm going to keep the lights on. I can sacrifice oxygen. And
For a
so I
bit.
run over and
Yeah.
I flip the switch on, and the switch doesn't quite go on. I'm like, fuck. And then I turn around, and because in the way it handles the sound audio, and it's always done this in Dead Space, is everything's quieted down to only the sounds that your suit would receive. So you don't hear anything else in your environment other than you breathing, or if something hits you or something like that.
Mhm.
And of course, I turn around and there's fucking necromorphs, which are the name of the enemies. And you're like, oh, fuck, and you're fighting them and stuff. And so it's interesting that basically, not all the time, but every once in a while, you'll go to fix something exactly as you fixed it, and then you realize you have to do one extra step, usually involving a circuit breaker and things of, oh fuck, can I live without the lights? I think I can live without the
Right.
lights. And then of course it's next gen, so the lighting is very good
Right.
and very realistic, and you're like, oh, the light on this gun's real small. A real small field of view. Oh fuck. Okay.
Now,
Here we
have
go.
you come across something where you've made a choice and failed and gone back and made a different choice?
In regards to the circuit breaker?
Mhm.
Yes. That very first example. Where I was like, okay, and I got killed because I thought I could do fine with oxygen and stuff. And I was fine with oxygen. It was just there was enemies and I couldn't hear them coming
Mhm.
because that's what happened. And so I opted for having the lights off. Or when I've opted to have the doors off, it's only like half of the doors in the area. So it's like instead of like, oh, you're going point A to point B, it's like, oh no, I need to go the long way around
Which is
because I
more
turned this
enemies.
fucking door off.
Right.
Yes, with enemies. And it's like, okay, it's actually not a bad wrinkle. It's an
Sure.
interesting game design choice. It makes sense within the context of being an engineer.
Mhm.
And it's interesting.
I like that it gives you that option.
Um,
It's like I'm not a strong say I'm not a strong shooter, right? Maybe I want to
mhm,
keep the lights on,
mhm.
right? Or I'm really good at movement. I can deal without the oxygen or the life support. So yeah, like you can play into your strengths on certain styles.
Well, and since it is a modern game, you can turn on all of the modern accessibility stuff. Like, do
Mhm.
you want aim assist up 100%? Do you want extra health? Do you want this? Do you want that? Do you want that? But what was interesting before the game even launched into the opening cutscene was it gave me a disclaimer for epilepsy warning,
Mhm.
and then they had a second and third warning. The second warning was this game depicts extreme graphic, realistic flesh violence.
Mhm.
Be prepared for this. If you're okay, hit A to continue. And I was like, yeah, I know what I'm in for.
Right.
It's just
It's Dead Space.
new and more gory. And then the third one was if you're really okay with violence, we just want to let you know we'll put up like a pausing disclaimer on cutscenes that are really, really violent. And then like, do you want us to put up this disclaimer? And I was like, you know how many times I've played this game? Get out of here, you
Right.
fucking thing. And so far, there's I don't remember what they're called, but there's a particular enemy, just like this weird flying flesh bat thing that like flies into a corpse and will reanimate it and turn it into a bad necromorph. And in the original game, there's like a cutscene where this is happening in front of Isaac, and he can't do anything about it. And in the remake, he's thrown across a room, and in much more dramatic cinematography, the thing is like getting onto a corpse and reanimating it, but then you're seeing like the flesh start to like tear and like pop and like tear back from this thing that's like growing bigger out of a human corpse.
Okay.
And I was like, uh, oh, that's unsettling. That's like it was simultaneously like, holy fuck, that is a really amazing piece of animation, but then also bleh.
Right.
Which is fantastic to, at least from a longtime fan, to feel that way again
Mhm.
about Dead Space, because at this point, Dead Space is like, it's I'm sure it's like people who grew up with
Quake.
the original Evil Dead,
Yeah.
and it was frightening. And then eventually, you grow out of it, or you've seen it 100 times, and it's like, yep, yep, yep. And then you see a slightly different take, and it's like, oh shit, it's pretty gnarly. Um, yeah. So yeah, there's some interesting stuff like that, and then I also knew going into it that a couple of scenes that were not so favored by the community were straight up ripped out. of this. I'm actually about to get to one right now. I only know of it because of the review, but basically in the original there was a get in a turret and shoot stuff in first person with a meter to defend your whole strength shit thing.
Okay.
And that is apparently ripped out completely in this game and replaced with a whole new section. Where you're doing something to a similar effect, but it's more
Engaging. Yeah.
As far as what I played today, there was a section where, because one of the big things is pretty much the maps are laid out exactly as you remember them, except you have two options now in the game. In the original game, you'd get on a tram, you'd get to a loading screen, and you'd go to a new area of the spaceship.
Okay.
In this, you can go on the tram like you've always done, or you can go down this new door to the left that takes you through a bunch of corridors and
make a
stuff that realistically puts you, air quotes, logically where you should be within the ship, like moving through the ship organically.
Mhm.
And I was like, well, I know what the fucking train does. It's A to B. We're going to go through door B, please. Show
Right.
me the new shit. And I went through one of those, and I gotta say, it was really fucking solid. It was really solid. I was like, oh, okay, we're going out here. And I was like, oh, we're introducing zero G already. Interesting. This is not where this typically occurs. And then another thing that they did in the remake was, so there were zero G segments in Dead Space 1, but they were 2008 zero G segments where you're stuck to a floor in a mag boot and you could like aim and then like launch yourself and you kind of float to, a ceiling or something like that. And those have all been completely gutted and replaced with how Dead Space 2 and 3 handles zero G, which is zero G, and like ace and like thrusters and rotations and all that sort of stuff.
Right.
And so I went through this whole section through the ship docking bay and like down a shaft that was fucking broken in zero G and like got to the same location. I was like, all right, that was pretty fucking solid. It didn't feel out of place. It felt right. The zero G stuff was good. Yeah. So far, the Dead Space remake is fantastic. I will say, since I am a longtime fan, there are some niggly bits that rub me the wrong way, but I'm over it now. Number one is all the other cast members have been replaced with different face and voice actors. And that's a little weird, mostly because like I'm so used to them from the old game. And it's, I guess, just further weird because it's like, well, we have the original Isaac Clarke voice actor, but he never was in the first game. So it's like that kind of like weird, yeah, but also, like kind of thing. That's a little weird. They did a little tweaking the controls. You can keybind customize all the controls if you want, but the default controls do modernize the controls a little bit. So for example, original Dead Space, you held left bumper to run, and
now it's a stick click.
It's a stick click,
right?
And so you have a stasis, like a time freeze ability, and you have like a force grab pull push thing. And they changed the buttons for those. They're just on different buttons. They don't feel any worse or like bad. Like they're just different buttons.
Right.
I think on the original it was like B for stasis, and now it's Y. And I'm like, okay. And other than just years of muscle memory, it's not that weird. Oh, and then the big one was so in the original Dead Space, you only have a foot stomp melee. That's your only melee. and it was tied to right bumper. In the sequels, they gave you like a punchy punch and a kicky kick, and those are in the remake, but they've swapped the buttons for them. So your trigger is your kick, and your right shoulder button is your punchy punch.
Okay.
And then I was worried about this. So Dead Space 1 has some fantastic original weapons, but some of their like shitty generic weapons, like the assault rifle,
Mm-hmm.
are super shitty and generic, and nobody ever fucking used them if you played Dead Space.
Right. It was
Which
better
they
than your
fixed.
fist and not by much.
Yeah. Well, so Dead Space, the premise of the game in its combat loop is when you're fighting the space zombies, the necromorphs, their whatever reason, their brains are located in their like elbows and joints. And so
Okay.
headshots are pointless.
Mm-hmm.
You need to aim for the limbs to defeat them or dispatch them quickly,
Mm-hmm.
which is why they give you power tools like saws and plasma cutters
Right.
and, things that are not a fucking assault rifle. And so when you had an assault rifle in the original game, it was pretty fucking useless. And you had an alt fire that was like you put your gun on the ground and it like spins bullets around and in 360 degrees, and it was fucking useless. In the remake, not only is the assault rifle useful, but its alt fire is a fucking proximity grenade. And I'm
Okay.
like,
That'll dismember things.
that's useful.
Yeah.
That is very useful. It's like, oh, I hear something. I'm going to put this down in front of me here, or I'm going to cover my ass here, switch back to my plasma cutter. So you can be a little more tactical than you could in the original game.
I'll almost use it
And I
like
was
a
like,
claymore.
yeah, it's exactly what I use it for. I don't ever use the bullet function. And smartly, instead of it being like some dumbass thing like you have to get grenades for it, it just uses like a percentage of the ammo
Mm-hmm.
from the magazine of the machine gun. And I'm like, oh, well, all right then. So they've made some changes to the core weapons, which I was a little nervous about. They've kept some of the core ones pretty much largely the same. The
Yeah.
exception is they expanded the upgrade trees on like the basic weapons. I don't have it yet, but I can see the open slot for the node. Apparently you can put on like extra fire damage on the plasma cutter and stuff like that, some damage type stuff,
Mm-hmm.
which is new. As far as how the game controls, it feels like Dead Space. The only thing I can say, having jumped from the first one to obviously the remake here today, the aim speed is much quicker in the remake. And it feels a little bit like there's like a little bit of, I don't know whether it's like button lag or if it's because there's more animations now. It seems like there's like a little bit of lag between walking and sprinting. And I don't know if it's like, you click the button and the game's registering it and it's preparing the character to run, or if it's just because like there's more animation
Right.
to the running. I tried both non-performance mode and performance mode. Unfortunately, Digital Foundry has not done their review yet on this game, so I'm not sure which is better. From my eyes only, it seemed like performance is 60 frames a second, and there's something less about the shadows, whereas the other is something more about the shadows, and it's 30 frames a second. My understanding is that the PC version has ray tracing, but the consoles do not.
Okay.
And I don't know if that's going to be a thing. Like, I know Callisto Protocol didn't have ray tracing at launch, but it did like 2 weeks later
Sure.
for whatever reason. So I don't know if it's like something like that, or the console versions are just not getting them. Hard to say.
Might just be a coding thing where they haven't quite gotten it optimized yet.
Well, I mean, if it's in the game on the PC version, right?
Right.
one could assume that it probably just needs more optimization for the console, since the consoles have less ray tracing capability than a good old putting a hip back into its socket there. What was that old grunty face for there, Mr. Nate?
Cracking a second one.
Oh, it looked painful.
Well, yeah,
It looked like
this my bottle
you were.
opener.
Oh, that's okay. I mean, if that's what you want to use, I guess that'll do it.
Yes. Tough on the
So
knuckles.
far, yeah, Dead Space Remake. It's really quite on the nose.
Cool.
It's
Will
hitting the mark.
will this be the version you play on Halloween from the hereafter, or will you go back to the originals?
I mean, it's hard to say. So obviously, the
Jury's
game
out
has a
until it's
special
over,
place in
right?
my. I mean, the game has the old game has a very special place in my heart as the best survival horror game I have ever played. Um, you know, it's hitting a lot of the bars. I do feel like there's a little bit of rough edge to this remake.
Okay.
Um, and it's almost to be expected since
Entirely new
this
team,
isn't
entirely
this
new
this isn't
engine.
a remaster. It's running on Frostbite. It's a totally different team,
Mhm.
totally different stuff. The only thing that made it through from the original is the score for the game. They're using the original score by Jason Graves, which is
Mhm.
of course a classic, with a secondary composer that has added new music and or retweaked some music for certain cutscenes since the dialogue's different now.
Right.
Um, and the new music, I honestly can't tell it apart from the old music. So
That's a
he's
good
doing a
thing. Yeah.
fantastic job. I actually looked up the composer, the guy. I don't know his name exactly, but he's the composer on my M. Night Shyamalan TV show Servant, which
Okay.
is a horror show too. So I'm like, okay, nice. And then the Isaac Clarke voice actor is of course a carryover, and pretty much whatever their old design docs that I'm sure they had in a file somewhere, and they sure as fucking shit used,
Right.
you know. But it's just those like little bit of edges that I'm almost just like, I feel like these edges are gonna get smoothed out in like the next couple of patches. I notice because one of the games is you have like a holographic UI and it's like in the world instead of a menu. And I notice like when I'm reading text files in it, like the text has like a little bit of like pixel shimmer jitter to it.
Okay.
And I don't
Not
think it's intent.
intentional?
I don't think it's pot. Like I was asking my wife about this because she noticed it too. And then she's like, it could be just an intentional choice since you're supposed to be in this holographic rig in this like terrible atmosphere. Like it
Mhm.
could just be like like a film grain
Right.
kind of addition. And I was like, yeah, but the original had really clear text. And I don't, because it's like the exact same like UI, just even more HD. One bigger change that they did do is they did redo the map screen. The map screen in the original was pretty 3D, and it's still 3D here, but like the camera of it is like makes it look more like 2D maps in a way. Like it's still functional, it still works.
Mhm.
It's just different. It's not what I was expecting. Um but yeah, other than that, like so far it's as far as remakes go, it's like the team paid really close attention to not fuck with what wasn't broke. And the shit that was jank or was garbage in the original, they straight up changed. And so it's like that really kind of interesting mix of a remake. because it's Dead Space. And it
Okay.
feels like Dead Space, and it is Dead Space, and these corridors are exactly as I remember until you get to one that's not, you know? So I think it's pretty high praise. Pretty high
Okay.
praise. Obviously is going to be in the short list for survival horror game of 2023. Pretty hands down in that category, since it's already working from, my opinion, one of the greatest blueprints ever.
Right.
So I think the only other contender to that would be the forthcoming Resident Evil 4 remake, which is ironic since the Resident Evil 4 formula is what the Dead Space formula is. So we'll see what happens with the quote unquote original Kings remake, which I think hits in the next couple of months. We'll see what happens. Yeah, that's what I've been doing in gaming. Ring spin.
Ring spin.
All right, whatever Earth is.
That would be technology.
It's technology. All right, so
Just scrolling back up through the channel there.
I think the last one we did was the NVIDIA broadcast update.
Yes.
Pretty sure we did that last show.
Yeah, which I'm not currently running because again haven't played with it. So yeah,
My voice is dying, so I'm not going to get into the first one that I have on the list there. Why don't you tell us about the G Spot, Nate?
well, and there's the second one there
Tell
too.
us
That's
about the
on there.
G Spot and where to find it.
So Google has decided to come up with their own. I'm going to say it's their version of the G tag, or not the G tag, the Air tag. And in their infinite wisdom with naming it, they're calling it the G Spot. So I was quite amused with that, and I'm sure it's not going to make it to production with that. If it does, I mean, kudos to them. Because you got to know that that's the big faux pas. But yeah, I'm like, cool. Google's getting into the AirTag game. Like, I don't know that there's a whole lot of competition in that space at the moment. At least not any
I mean,
really
it's
viable
Tile.
one. Yeah, Tile.
Tile's been there the longest.
Mm-hmm.
I had a Tile at one point. It was not bad. I don't have an AirTag, which is surprising given the Apple zealotry over here.
Right.
But I don't lose things, so I'm not an idiot.
Right. We're actually acquiring a couple of them because we're taking the kids to Disneyland, and I'm like, we're putting AirTags on them.
Oh, interesting.
So,
Well, whose phone you using for that AirTaggery?
the grandmother has an Apple, the sister-in-law has an Apple, the wife has an Apple, and the brother-in-law now has an Apple. So I'm the last bastion holdout, and I do technically have an Apple device I can take with me. It's the work phone.
Yeah, but you should just
I should still hold out.
give in, Nate.
No, I should
I should
just
give in,
hold
Nate.
out and
So
find
when Apple
the G spot.
inevitably
Yeah.
announces a foldable,
It
is that
won't
when you
happen.
crack?
It won't happen. My issue isn't because if it was based on the hardware itself, I would have been Apple a long time ago. It's the interface. It's the
Fair
App
enough.
Store. It's there, right? It has nothing to do with the hardware because yeah, the hardware has always been hands down, and it's only getting better, especially with the
True.
the new chips making their way into the smaller devices.
Oh yeah.
So
Yeah. The only other thing I had, so a conglomerate of art companies are suing DeviantArt as well as Stable Diffusion and Midjourney in the great state of California for AI artwork.
Yep. We are the Sumi
so my
state.
cliff notes, yeah, right. So my cliff notes for this are actually basically going to be paraphrased from Quarter Crew Digital, who do those lovely breakdowns
Mhm.
of special effects and all that sort of stuff. They got a legal analyst on there, um, and he had some interesting things to state about this particular lawsuit. Um, Number one, obviously, Midjourney and Stable Diffusion and uh, I guess DeviantArt for whatever reason other than that they're a database. Um, their argument against the suit is that AI art is no different than how artists art by looking at other art and imitating
Sure. Yeah.
and then generating. Obviously, the counterpoint to that is that the data set, I believe called
Mhm.
Lion, which is like basically every fucking known image on the fucking planet known to the fucking internet
Right.
and Google, um, is perhaps grounds for copyright infringement. The legal analyst had some really interesting things to say on this, and he said he really hoped that the jury and whomever lawyers are doing this have the wherewithal to communicate this appropriately to all parties involved. Where apparently there were 3 lawsuits in the history that had to do with digitalization and copyright and things being shown on the internet, um, for that were copyright.
Mhm.
One of them was something in the early 2000s where Google image search was putting up it like the cover images, like when you put it in like searched in
Mhm.
Google for it was some magazine, it was some publicly traded magazine thing,
Sure.
and the magazine sued Google and said, "Hey, that's our trademarked cover
Mhm.
that we do every fucking month. You can't do that." And Google won this lawsuit against them, with the court ruling that Google is providing information to the public in a
Correct.
fashion that a library would,
Mhm.
and therefore are not profiting from that artwork, but are merely providing a public service that far outweighed any copyright damages. Um, and there were 2 other suits of very similar nature. Again, there was a book, another Google one, when Google did books,
Mhm.
and they were releasing large excerpts from books that were searchable. Like you could search like the first chapter or
Mhm.
something in
Right.
Google search. Um,
They were giving you
and
a
they
sampler of it.
Yeah, and they again won on the same grounds as their Google image search, despite the fact that even though the other one was like, well, they're not profiting from it, despite the fact in the very own court documents that were filed, there's a fucking link to buy the book on Google Books for the things that they were
Sure.
searching for. So there
But
was a profit motivation there.
of course, there's
However,
profit
it was allowed.
motivation, and it'd be different if they weren't. Again, this comes down to something I've always talked
Mhm,
about: accreditation and compensation. So even if you
mhm.
buy a book on Google Books, the author, publisher, etc., is getting their cut. So if they
Yeah.
weren't, that lawsuit probably ends
Yeah.
differently. Hey,
Yeah. There was a third one
we're
too.
gonna give you a whole chapter of a book, and then give you a place to buy it where they don't make any money.
Yeah.
So.
There was a third example too, but I forget the example. But basically, what it comes down to is 2 things. And apparently, within the word of the law, it comes down to a transformative work and a derivative work.
Mhm.
A derivative work is something like a sequel. Say, for example, the new Star Wars movies by Disney are considered a derivative work, even though they are the original owners, or are now the owners
Correct.
of the intellectual property known as Star Wars in the original works by George Lucas. So anything like that that's licensed appropriately is considered derivative work.
Mm-hmm.
Now, transformative work is when one alters an original something to such an extent that it is either basically unrecognizable or for parody or
Mm-hmm.
in such a way that it is like familiarly one could equate it to be kind of like something,
Mm-hmm.
but isn't. And that would fall into the category of, I believe the example in Quarter Cruise video was something like a Van Gogh painting,
Mm-hmm.
and somebody does like their own Van Gogh, and instead of, the hillside, the starry night that most people should be familiar with, it's like a fucking Pizza Hut or something
Sure.
in the
Well, I
style
mean,
of Van Gogh.
one could say the Dead Space remake, even though it's a new studio, would be a derivative work,
Yeah,
right? Whereas,
100%,
you know,
because it's the same thing as like I was talking about with the Star Wars thing.
yeah,
Like it's a
Wolfenstein
derivative
Quake
work, even though
Doom,
they own
yeah,
the IP.
Wolfenstein
Yeah.
Quake Doom would probably be transformative.
But if it's the same people,
But again, you're
like
not
that's all id.
right.
So, like, okay, maybe a better example would be, so, and this is terrible because I meant to play it and I still haven't. I own the Callisto Protocol.
Mm-hmm.
It is made in large part by the original developers Dead Space. And whenever you look at it, it looks really fucking similar to Dead Space.
Sure.
Space station? No, it's on a moon. Health bar on your back? No, it's on his neck.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Derivative or transformative?
So,
that's a tough call, right?
Clearly it's transformative.
Right.
Even though it's obviously a little derivative because it's, it's by the same.
Hey, look,
dude.
my Oppo Android phone looks very much like the brand new iPhone, 14.
Right. Yeah. And, lots of things can certainly look like an iPhone.
Yes.
They just probably aren't underneath the glass.
Right.
And so that's where this thing of AI tools is going to fall into here. And it's interesting that the art is the one that's getting the big lawsuit.
Sure.
And a big court thing.
And I'm slowly
than,
coming around on it. I was actually perusing. I've been on a doom scroll with NFL Twitter lately because playoffs and whatnot.
Okay.
And a particular AI artist has made images based off of Cincinnati's recent opponents and their inevitable defeat of said opponents. And has openly stated, hey, I used AI art generation tools to make these. And someone goes, well, anyone could just you just plugged in a phrase and it gave you this. And they're like, no, I plugged in a phrase and it gave me 37 different images. And I've taken parts of each one and then blended them into my own piece. And then actually broke it down step by step on a particular image was, okay, the tiger's head came from one. The forearm came from another. The bird cage came from another. The picture in the background came from and I was like, okay, well, I mean, that is probably the appropriate way to use the tool without it just plugging in a phrase and then saying, this is mine now.
Well, and the counterpoint to that too is in the court case, which I will mention. And maybe I'm just a proponent because I'm the one who's fucking paying for it. But Novel AI is not in the suit.
Sure. Yes.
Just saying.
And I think if I remember reading it correctly, the onus on DeviantArt, why it was so, why they're in this is they turned a back end switch on that said your art is now in this database. You can opt out later.
So having recently gone down this path, and even though I haven't really done anything in the last 2 weeks because I've been super busy in my day job, I think I said last podcast even. So yeah, on DeviantArt, when you submit on DeviantArt, and I've been submitting on DeviantArt, there's a checkbox that says, Do you approve this image for use in AI art datasets?
Right.
Yes or no?
Right. Which is the way it should be. And it should have been
Sure.
opt-in for previous works. The problem was they turned that button on for everything previous. And even if you opt out of it now, guess what? It's already in the database.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you pull it.
Well, and then the counterpoint in the lawsuit thing that particularly OpenAI, who creates Stable Diffusion, which is one of the technologies that's used in AI art, you know, how it's working on that stuff. So it's working from these giant fucking Lion data sets, right? And it works to create noise, and the noise figures that out through some algorithm as to how
Right.
to create said image from it. And at the end of the day, what you have is, instead of like a fucking 400 fucking billion trillion terabyte data set,
Mm-hmm.
is you have a 2 terabyte data set that doesn't contain any image artwork whatsoever
Right.
in the data set.
Mm-hmm. Which, I mean, you can,
And
when
so,
you put something in, you could get a Van Gogh or you could get a Dali off the
well,
same.
I want to say a dolly is a very different piece of technology. That is not
No,
what's being
Salvador Dali.
talked about right now. Oh, sorry. There's a piece of technology
Yes.
called Dolly,
Yes.
DALLE.
Yeah. No, a
And
Salvador
that one is
Dali where
currently
you're,
not.
yeah, where everything is melted across like a
Yeah.
soup spoon and a
Mm-hmm.
cat.
Yeah.
So,
Um. So, you know what this? It's interesting because the suit's going after several different people. Like we said,
mhm,
the DeviantArt thing is one issue. Stable diffusion is another issue,
mhm,
because it's the one that's got this data set and it's generating stuff from noise because it's been trained to do stuff.
mhm.
But the actual data set it's using for that does not have any actual.
Is someone climbing in through your window?
I mean, I'm on the second story. If they are, shit. No, I just heard like some like sizzling.
Oh yeah, that's not good in a room full of electronics.
Mm-mm, mm-mm,
It wasn't
mm-mm.
this.
No. Mm-mm.
Okay.
No, I heard it over there.
Well,
So I don't
I
know.
will keep an eye on your screen if I see something.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
So yeah, so it's really interesting, and it's basically, since this is the first lawsuit of this kind, there's another one going on in Europe right now, but it's unresolved.
Right.
This is conceivably going to set a big precedent.
Sure.
And that was the thing that the lawyer stressed on Corridor Crew was, you know, cases are won on precedent. That's why Google's been able to do this for case after case after case after
Mhm.
case after case, because of this one thing, you know, 20 years ago. And then they're like, this is going to set a big precedent
Yep.
for
And it
whichever
should.
way it goes.
And it should.
Moving forward. And it's like, yeah, cool.
And of course, yeah, you have the one over in Europe, so that's going to set the UK precedent because there's like with
Mhm.
everything, with entertainment, even technology, there's a US precedent and then a UK rest of the world
Mhm.
precedent.
Sure.
So,
Yeah. And other countries as well.
yep.
So that's what I have for technology.
Yeah, and the last thing I put in there was also kind of in the line of AI is Adobe just released a tool called Adobe
Okay.
Podcast that now uses
Oh,
AI.
really?
Yeah, AI to do your editing.
How?
Right, like probably it probably knows what an hiss whatever sounds like and knows how to. I'm wondering if it's like I haven't tried it because obviously I haven't had to edit a podcast in forever, but I wonder
Mhm.
if you can go into this tool and say edit out all the swear words,
Mm. That'd be useful.
right?
Yeah.
Edit out any silence over 3
Our show
seconds.
would be incoherent.
At least your track of it. My swearing is kept to a minimum.
Damn. Well, that'd be the other thing. Like, how would it do with multi-track? Because the second, you know, Like on our show, the second anything's cut, whatever's cut from you needs to be cut from me, or else then
Right.
we're not in sync.
Right.
You know. So I don't know.
Yeah. Would it be mashed into a single file for AI editing purposes? And yeah, who knows?
No.
But yeah, it's like that's interesting for for these up and coming podcasts. Editing is one of the hardest things.
Sure,
And if you want a quality cast, it does need to have some sort of edit to it.
it's true.
So
It's very true.
you can either do it yourself, put the man hours into it, or pay someone else to do it, or now there's a third option: have Skynet do it.
I mean, like I said last podcast, we this year is the year of the AI revolution
Hmm.
for tools, for like specific purpose built AI tools for specific things. You know, we've got AI art, we've got AI writing, you
Yep,
know, we've got AI podcasting apparently. So the AI video editor's got to be coming around the corner.
we've got AI news articles,
Yeah, that's true. Well, that's the
right?
AI writing. So
Yeah,
that's, you know, so yeah, it's gonna be an interesting year, I'm sure. All right, let's spin it. Move along. Good clip tonight.
water or fire, water or fire.
It is fire. Life
Ooh, life stories.
stories. Yes.
As your TV gets really really bright. Okay, there we go.
No. Yeah, sure. It does something.
I still don't see any smoke in the
Um.
background, so
Oh,
that's good.
that's good. That's always good.
Yeah, so
All right.
you
Well.
hit me up earlier today, and it's like, hey, so are we still good for the show tonight? I'm like, yeah, mostly. And you were like,
Oh yeah. What's the mostly
man,
about?
it's you know, I'm I don't know what's been going on this last couple of weeks. I don't know, probably this last month. I'm not sleeping right. I'm not doing real
Okay.
good with my mentals, which probably led to the conversation we had offline last or a few days ago, just because my head's
Mhm.
just been kind of doing its own thing. So I don't know.
Okay.
Like I'm getting 4 to 6 hours of sleep sometimes, and then
Oof.
even when I get 8, I feel like I've had
That's
6.
bad. I mean, that's me this week.
Yeah. So it hasn't
So
been going real swimmingly, and then of course tonight the wife has my obviously my kiddos and my niece over here, and they were doing movie night, and it's like
okay.
the usual little bit of downtime that we'd have before I get on the show. I was like, well, there that
Mm.
goes. You know,
Mm.
when you messaged me and said, hey, I'm we're doing this, and I'm like, well, the kids are mostly down, and that's what was that, a quarter to 9.
Right.
Right, they're usually out, like my 2 are usually out like lights by 8:30 the latest.
Mm.
So,
I gotcha.
it's been kinda rough, and work's been I don't even know what's going on with it. Like, we're hiring people, but we're laying people off, we're not making enough money, and I don't know,
That seems weird.
a lot of stress going on in the life right now that,
Didn't your company get bought out by somebody though?
we did, yes. And typically,
Okay.
like our last the last owners, their fiscal calendar went uh, January to January, and
Okay.
they would cut off like we they would each month would be 5 week, 4 week, 5 week, 4 week, 5 week, 4 week, and it didn't matter what the um like the end date was. If it was a 5 week month, say January was um ended on a Wednesday, we'd push it out till February's first Friday to give it a full five
Okay.
weeks. So then we'd have these weird offsets. So this new company is like, nope, the whatever the last day of the month is the last day of the month, and they're June to June.
Okay.
So typical business for my company was just rush everything out the door so that we could make our December numbers. right? When it was always
Okay.
stressful in December because we were stealing from everything we could to try to make every bit of last money so that when we closed the books on December, we still had the totals. Well, we did that this year. So come January, which was normal for the previous ownership, was okay, we're going to be real sparse because we pulled a lot of stuff forward to make money, to make the
Mm.
numbers, to make the bottom line. So we did that, and now so we're sitting in here now. We're at month 7 under the new regime. We haven't had any work
Mm.
because we blasted out December like we were supposed to.
Okay.
So it's just
So
been
everybody's twiddling their thumbs then.
yeah. I've had a lot of twiddle thumb days. I've had like right now I'm taking a day off. Like I looked at my boss since we're going to Disneyland next week. I'm like, do you think I could take it off? He goes, you need two. Like
Okay. Fair enough.
it's real easy to get called time off, sick or vacation right now. But yeah, it's just scary. Like job I've been working at now for going on next week. I'll be there 18 years.
18 years?
Yeah,
Damn.
yeah,
That's crazy.
and then just
Oh, that is a
it's
long time
just
to be
it's
doing anything.
real scary when things don't look like they have too big of a future. And
Mm.
again, I don't with 18 years at this place, my marketable skills really kind of pigeonhole me into certain industries.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
I'm sure. Um, so do you think that is the only thing adding to your restless sleepness?
I don't
It's
know.
just the
I don't know because I
the
mean
lack of activity?
I've gone through these spells before, and this is one of the reasons that. Speaking of which, I'm glad we had this conversation. One of the reasons I'm
Mm.
doing these days, I've actually, I've gotten on a mood stabilizer, which seems to be helping quite a bit. But yeah, like I would go through these spells where either depression or anxiety would uh, kick in, and like I wouldn't sleep, or I'd have to medicate to sleep, or liquid medicate to sleep, and then um, to then work, I'd have to do the reverse. So I was constantly, either over caffeinating, over alcoholing, overdoing whatever, just to try to, maintain some sort of a rhythm. Oh, yeah, who knows?
Mm.
Like it could be. It might be time to call up the old therapist again and see if she's got a day she can squeeze me in for a half-hour talk.
I mean, fair enough. Those are your choices to make.
Hmm. There we go.
Um, I have been so tremendously busy at work, and I am exhausted. I'm still exhausted. I finally slept last night. But it's also the same thing. Um, maybe not the work thing since the work is good right now.
Right.
Um, but I've been not sleeping particularly well, 6 or 5 hours stuff. Um, and I feel like probably some of that is also bad adulting on my part. I have stayed up a little bit late to play Elden Ring with KB. Um, you know, and he works till 9, and Jessica's usually in bed at 9, so that's usually like a sweet spot,
Hmm.
and I just feel like it's been go 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 go, and then it's like, okay, well, these hours, these are my time to chill and
Right.
have fun and relax, and oh fuck, it's 12:30.
Right. Yeah, that's always the because
Which
that was the
is
same
the
with me.
problem.
Like once everyone went to bed, I probably had a couple hours to kill, um,
Mhm.
literally and figuratively. Like and get online and shoot aliens in faces. And
Mhm.
that would typically be that 9 to 11, which was 9 till 2 in the morning. Um,
Yeah.
and yeah, like even that, like one of my friends was just like, if you hadn't noticed, I kind of haven't been gaming a lot lately, and it's like, yeah, me too. And a lot of it, what I attributed to is a lot of the games that I enjoy playing, the time commitment,
Yeah.
just I don't have it. Like I don't have
Sure.
that, hour and a half to 2 hour block every day that I can commit to it. And I'm not going to go and I'm not
Yeah.
going to put in a half an hour to something I'm just
Hmm.
going to either lose the progress on or just like I may not get back to it this week. I may not get back to it tomorrow. So it's just like, why even start if that's the case?
Man, I hear that, like I started, God of War Ragnarok, and I was trying to get through it, you know, and the last Sunday when I had the Sunday to myself and I didn't have a cast edit, Sunday was my day,
Hmm.
and I got up and I was like, I had intended to play God of War Ragnarok because it's like, unless I have like a ton of time during the week, like playing that particular game, like to get into it, like I need a couple of hours,
Right.
because there's a hefty story component to it and that sort of thing. And then to make any kind of progress, there's going to be battling and stuff, and maybe I'm not good at it that night or whatever, And it's like, and I know that the game is long too, so it's like, okay, if I'm gonna whack off a few hours of this game's clock,
Hmm.
I need a chunk of time to do it. But last weekend, like I did breakfast and I was just like, man, I'm just not fucking feeling it.
Right.
And so what did I do? I fucking ground on Elden Ring all fucking day.
Yeah.
Because I'd fallen behind on the levels. Killbot had surpassed me by like 20 levels. And I was like, that can't stand because
And
I'm
see,
the one who's
I
done the game.
I hate that feeling. I hate that feeling because again, I watch people stream, in my case,
Sure.
Destiny 2, and it's like, yeah, there's 1600. I'm like, I turn on the thing and I'm like, I'm 1579. I'm
Mm.
1 point away from hitting the hard cap where everything now
I,
requires.
I don't even I don't even remember what I am
Yeah, but it's like
Destiny.
everything
Like I
from
gotta
this
pull it
point
up on a
forward
map.
for me to progress is it has to be pinnacle gear. I have to, like I have to
Yeah.
play 3 games of Crucible. I have to play 3 games of Gambit.
Mhm.
I have to go do Nightfalls, and then so
Yep.
there's 4 sources. The rest of them are all raids, grandmasters, legendaries that I need groups and it's just like, and again, it's
Mhm.
like, I mean, I like that those points just aren't worth it to me. I'd rather go and why I've been playing like the last time we talked, you said what game have you been playing? It's like I've been playing the Lego Skywalker saga. I know it's 9 movies and I can take it literally a scene at a time.
Mm.
And I
Yeah.
can put it down and I know exactly what I'm up for the next time I put it on because I've watched all the movies and like it doesn't I, it there's no upgrade. There's no I can't progress to the
Sure.
next story until I've reached this certain pinnacle. Like I finish the story, I move on to the next one. It's a game. Like I'm more interested
Sure.
in playing the Dead Space remake because it's that. Like I don't have an upgrade tree that I'm not going to be able to get through this unless I grind out 15 different side missions. Like
I mean, there is an upgrade tree in Dead Space, but
sure,
you
but
know,
you can progress through it naturally through the course of the story.
sure. I'm 1578 by the way
And you
on Destiny, but that's where I've been at since like fucking whenever, you know. Um, but yeah, time consideration. I think last Sunday,
fif-
yeah, I was behind Killbot on levels.
1574.
Okay,
Yeah.
so only a few. Um, but instead of playing God of War Ragnarok, which is what I wanted to do, I ended up doing Elden Ring.
Right.
I did it for like fucking 6 hours or whatever till the wife got home. But hey, and the thing is, like, even though, like, it's that same, I think it's the same consideration that you're talking about. It's like, I've already beaten Elden Ring. I've already
Hmm.
done all the things. I didn't have to do any of those things. it just did bug me that I had fallen behind on levels when playing with Killbot. And, and it was like, I've done this shit already. I'm just gonna go fucking do it because I know I can. Like,
Right.
there's something about that knowing I can. And like when I fired up Dead Space today, like I actually wasn't gonna play it for like I was like gonna play it for like, an hour or something. And then Jessica's like, I have a bunch of homework. And she's like, but I'll sit with you. She's like, so if you want to play Dead Space today, that's fine. And my two thoughts were, oh, okay. And then my other thought was, Dead Space is 8 to 12 hours. I know this because I have beaten this, at least the original, like 100 times. And I'm like, I could probably complete Dead Space this weekend. And that's probably what I'm going to do tomorrow is I'm going to finish fucking Dead Space. Because if I'm 4.5 hours in and, depending on encounters, 8 to 12 hours.
Right.
Like, yeah, I'm going to knock it out, and then I'll be ready for New Game Plus on harder difficulty, on another run and stuff. Because that's basically what you do in that game is
Right.
Oh, you didn't get all the upgrades this first time? Okay, cool. Do another run. Okay, like you've maxed out your character, you have everything in the game. All right, now try Impossible.
Right.
Impossible, by the way, is actually harder in Dead Space Remake. I looked at the difficulty setting. So in Dead Space 1, you get 3 saves.
Okay.
That's it. You get 3 saves the whole game. That is it. Dead Space Remake, you get 1 save, and if you die, that save is deleted.
Oh.
And I'm like, oh,
that's permadeath.
That's harder.
That's why even have a save other than if you don't die, you
other than getting off.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow, permadeath.
Yeah.
Okay. But again, does the story change by putting in the other than like the going to these higher difficulties just so I can go back through and challenge myself, right? It doesn't change the story.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, Dead Space is a linear story.
Right.
Even though the world is less linear.
Right. So I've never been an achievement hunter. I've never been one of those persons that go, look how many platinums I have on my account.
I mean,
that's just
in the very early days when they first added it to Xbox. I was
the gamer score
hunter, for sure. Yeah. But for me now, I only do it if it's a game I abso-fucking-lutely love. Like Halo Infinite, for example. Like I tried to get all the fucking achievements in that game, except for that one skull in the fucking first mission that I fucking missed. And a year and a half later, they added mission replays for me to get it.
I think
which I haven't
the game
gotten.
I've tried to go for the most achievements on has been Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Like that's it.
Oh, okay.
A lot of like a lot of the games I play, I'll play and play and play and play, and then I'll pick up my phone the next morning for work, and I go, "What is this Xbox notification? Oh, I made 37 different achievements by just playing the game." And a lot of them is you completed chapter 1, you completed chapter 2. Right.
Oh yeah.
But then there's some of them that are funny that it's like you shot the mouse bot 25 times, and it's like, oh, I guess I did. It's the chicken kicker from what was it? Skyrim. There's a chicken kicker achievement. Why not? And you never know you'd get it until you kick 25 chickens.
Well, I got one in Dead Space this morning, and my wife, I guess, was watching me not doing her homework. And I was on like chapter 2, and I got an achievement pop for dismembering 40 limbs. She's like, Jesus, you already got 40 limbs already? And I was like, honey, I'm a fucking professional at this game.
Right.
Like,
and that's
like,
how
of course that was going to happen quickly.
Yeah. But like, that's how you kill things in this game. So it's not like,
going for the head or a body shot is a waste of ammo.
Right.
And is really just there for fear-induced panic of, "Oh, no, 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 no,
No.
get away from
Oh,
me."
they're running faster now. Yes.
Yeah. So, yeah. Um, I don't know. I guess we kind of glommed over it, but do you do survival horror games?
I
Is
don't
that a
like, well,
genre?
not, I don't seek them out. And like, Dead Space
Okay.
was one of the first games that I was like, ooh, this kind of reminds me of Doom. Like it, like Space Marine.
Doom 3. Yeah,
Right.
for sure.
Yeah. Like, oh, Space Marine. Hey, oh, look, it's got a little scary alien, thing to it. Oh, they're zombies. Okay, whatever. But it kind of played the same way. And yeah, once you started getting into it, you're like, well, this is a little bit of a horror game. But yeah, like I don't specifically go for gore horror, genre type games. Like, but a
Yeah,
couple of the ones that
I
I
don't.
played, like my one of my favorite games still to this day is Fear.
Oh,
And
yeah.
that is a
Yeah.
horror game.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, like
Oh,
the
yeah.
creepy little girls crawling, doing that crab walk thing. No, that don't sit well with me. Um,
Yeah.
and spirits dropping through the ceiling tiles. Man, that game messed me up for a while. But I
Oh, man.
loved the game, if the game is done right. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, Dead Space is just one of those things. Um, yeah, so like I said, um, life's just been ton of work, ton of work. Um, just tiring, lots of work, lots of stuff. It's good. It's good stuff. I told you the wife is on prenatals.
Mm-hmm. That was, yeah.
So I guess the new goalpost is March, I guess. So we'll
Okay.
see, I guess.
Oh, I wish
I don't know.
the
Like
best of luck for you. I would love to say that having children is easy. It is very redeeming,
I'm sure it's not.
but
Yeah, I don't know. Like no, me and my wife have been talking about it more, and we're going to start trying again. And for those who are paying very close attention to the podcast, I think I probably sit on it. That was supposed to have been occurring in September, but
mhm.
it didn't. Um, I don't know. Like my wife asked me about it and she's like, "Aren't you excited?" And I was like, I guess."
You're like,
And I
I
don't know.
I look at
Like
I look at the
I don't
dark rings growing under Nate's eyes and him graying as per episode, and yeah, really exciting.
I mean, I don't think it's I don't know. I don't think it's the aspect of like becoming a father
It
that's
it hits different, and again, it's like
that's
there's
the
nothing
the hard
I can tell you that
thing.
is gonna make it
Sure.
easier or harder. It's just like when I wasn't looking
I
forward
mean,
to it. It happened, and I was like, I'm a dad now, and now I'm a dad now.
sure. And I feel like it is going to be one of those things where it's like, okay, I don't see it. I can't conceive of it, particularly, but it's going to happen and hopefully it's good
Hmm.
and everything's fine and there's a healthy baby at some point, you know. Um and but like other things come in, like it's not that I don't want kids, it's that other things happen that at this specific exact moment in time I'm just like, well, I'm glad I don't have kids,
Hmm.
but it is something, it is a path I do want to go down, but it's like I know there's going to be a ton of hard steps. It's like I'm not looking forward to not sleeping,
Right.
not sleeping more
Wiping a
for
wiping a dirty butt
conceivably
at 3 o'clock
what,
in the morning. Yeah.
5 years,
Right.
I don't know, like many years, I
Yeah.
guess. Uh, you know, I'm not looking forward to coming to some middle ground for how me and the wife's ideas for how to raise the kid is going to be,
Hmm.
and
There will be fights.
you know, yeah, well, and it's just like I don't know. Part of me though, because I feel like my wife had been like kind of down on having a kid since September, for other reasons, and she's kind of excited about it now.
Mhm.
She's like taking all these vitamins and shit, and like I had a conversation with her actually the other day when you were having the, perfect fucking moment to have a serious DM to me, and I'm just sitting there getting talked at from the wife, and I'm like, "This is fine," as the fire rages around me. Um, but I was telling her, because she's taking more vitamins than she's ever probably taken in her fucking life,
Right.
and
Oh, I
she's like,
remember
"Well,
him.
how many, how much vitamin D should I be taking?" And I was like, "Well, how much is in your prenatal?" She's like, 1,000 milligrams. And I was like, "Okay, you know where vitamin D comes from?" She's like, "Sunlight." I was like, "Okay, and where do you work?" "In a warehouse." I was like, "Okay, so fucking up that shit by
Right.
like 8 times that, because you're not getting
Right. Or
any."
get in the sun.
I mean, that's not gonna happen.
Right.
The only sun she's getting is on the drive to her university campus.
Which she has UV windows, and that doesn't do anything for you.
Yeah, probably. I don't know.
I know because my other glasses have the auto tint on them, and they don't work in the car because those UV rays don't make it through the windshield.
Mm,
Yeah, so
gotcha. Well, and then my fucking my my in-laws family hit me with like another fucking burst of fucking, I guess, joyous news,
mhm,
which is that my sister-in-law is pregnant again.
right.
And it's just like,
Which that always, yeah. So I'm assuming that wife's sister,
why?
right?
Why are you, yeah, why are you doing this again?
Yeah, I'm sure at some point there's someone in her family's someone from her family in here going, "Well, she's got a child. Why haven't you gotten one yet?"
Sure. I
Right?
mean, that's my mom, but,
Sure.
um, but, I've talked at length about my sister-in-law. I have come to have some love and affinity for her over the years. Um, and she wasn't particularly, I don't know, her normal Karen self when we were at Disneyland.
Okay.
um, and like I definitely, am growing to like and perhaps even love my nephew. Like when she was over last week delivering the news to Jessica, with of course with the addendum to keep it from her folks. Um, whatever. Um, you know, my nephew who's a little more than two right
Mhm.
now. He was like, "Uncle," and I was like, "Okay, that's a little." And I'm like, "Nephew,"
Right.
like that's okay, fine, fine.
Mhm.
Tug at those heartstrings,
Yeah.
you you little goober, you.
It only gets better.
But
Yeah.
it's like, it's a miracle this kid is even as normal and hypothetically healthy as it is, because like as much as we've told my sister-in-law, or at least my wife has told her and all of her family, and I'm sure probably her friends, she got pregnant on a whim. She didn't do any prenatals,
Mhm.
didn't do anything to put one's body in a position to have a good pregnancy.
Right.
Crapped out a child, you know,
Other hole, but yes.
not married. Yeah, okay, fine. Um, I'm sure that's in a book I need to read. Um,
Do we need to have that conversation, Tim?
oh my gosh, I don't know. It's a figure of speech, Nate.
Yes, I know, I know. Again, poke you in the
Um,
ribs. I gotta take my chances here, or my shots when I get them.
Sure. And she's had this like on again, off again kind of like I'm going to leave my baby daddy, I'm not going to leave my baby daddy like thing
Mhm.
for like 3 years now.
And I'm assuming it's the
And
same
like
baby daddy behind number 2?
yeah.
At least you hope
And
so?
I'm just
Yeah.
like no, it is.
Okay.
Um and it's just like the dudes in bark delivery and she doesn't work. And like living off of that and the fact that he's Native American and that handout.
Okay.
And I'm like, so your logic is you can barely afford to like do all these things
Right.
as a human with your little human.
Mhm.
And your logic is to have another one.
Right.
And the only thing and I didn't hear this direct conversation, but this was passed down from the wife, is her logic was she needed to do it before her insurance that she's on with her parents runs out. And I'm just like, that's the logic to have a second kid? Like,
I mean,
uh,
we have a word for that. That yeah.
and it's just frustrating because I hear her talk all the time about all the stupid shit that other people do,
Mhm.
right?
You're like,
So I can assume, based on conversations with her, that she has some modicum of line of intelligence of something,
mhm.
and yet it seems like every other fucking quarter there's like something that is just like, huh?
Huh? Yeah.
Why? Why would you do that?
Yeah.
You know? And I even told Jessica ages ago, before we even really seriously started talking about kids. I was like, I want to be in a position where we can raise a kid without all of the horse shit of money and job stability and housing and all that sort of stuff.
Right. Oh,
Which I feel like I'm in,
yeah, well, can I
you
give you
know?
an honest piece of advice on that one? It never
Sure.
happens. It never happens. You're always gonna find a reason to go,
Okay.
"Well, I could if I was making $5,000 more a year." Like, you'll always push those goalposts. It's one of those, like, I
I
didn't
mean,
think
and
I
that's
was
fine.
yeah, I was like, I'm kind of like you, I think we're good enough to do it, and we did it, and, and again, it have our struggles, but we're doing fine. Yeah, like, you've got uh your base needs covered at this point. Like, yeah,
Mhm.
you have a roof over your head. Um, you both have stable enough
Yeah, and
incomes, right?
and I can, and I
And
can
you've
drop $70 for the deluxe edition of Dead Space Remake this morning
sure,
and not be too concerned about it.
right. And it's
You know?
and again, it's not like you're living in squalor where you're at now. You still have
No.
wiggle room. Like, same thing. I have a decent house now. If it came down to it and things got really, really tight, I could downsize to a 2-bedroom apartment. That's an option for me,
Sure.
right? It's not like I'm in a
I
two-bedroom
mean, if
apartment.
that had to happen, I probably could make that work.
Right, but that's what I'm
But
saying.
that's
It's
the
not like I'm
thing.
doing this out of a two-bedroom
My
apartment going, "If I need to
my sister-in-law's
downsize,"
in a two-bedroom apartment,
right,
and I'm just
exactly.
like,
Yeah,
okay,
so, yeah, that's
okay,
just and again, we have a word for it. I won't use it on air because it's not particularly kind, but,
sure, you know, and it, and I think at this point it hurts me more because she is family.
mhm,
She is part of the deal that I married into, part of the equation. Not all the time. And obviously, my big concern when Jessica first told me was like, all the horrible stuff that happened with her trying to help,
Hmm.
when she was working nights and then somehow watching the kid during the day and doing school. And I'm just like, you can't do any of that stuff, hon.
Right.
And she's like, I know, I told her. I was like, okay. But I feel like we had that same conversation last time,
Right.
and like, I don't know. And it sucks that too, that like the sister's not telling the parents or her parents,
Hmm.
because it's also just like,
Why not? Are you worried?
well,
Right.
it's because of all the times that the parents have bailed them out,
Gotcha.
and paid for doctor's appointments and all this other stuff, and they've told me, like months and months ago, they're like, 2023, we're done helping.
Right.
Like, we want the best for our grandchild and obviously our daughter, but it's like, enough is enough,
Hmm.
and now I'm just like, I feel like she could hypothetically be expecting more
Oh, from your wife? Yeah.
handouts. Well, not just that, but from the parents.
Oh, gotcha. With the insurance stuff?
Well, not just that, but just like
Oh, in general.
rent and
Gotcha.
all kinds of shit,
Yeah, that's
and it's just like, I mean, like,
it's rough.
just because I mean, it's like, like, I'm not heartless, but it's also just like, you did
Hmm.
these things. These were your decisions as a quote unquote responsible adult, and they are going to financially devastate you further.
Hmm. Or you're gonna run from the
What do
problem.
you
Yeah.
expect to do?
Yeah. I mean, I have
Like,
I have a cousin that
don't come knocking on my
yeah, I
door.
have a cousin that has 5 different children, or 5 children from 4 different fathers. Yeah.
Jesus.
Two of which live with one lives with her mother, the other lives with her father, who they've divorced. And like they're all train wrecks. They're only of all of the 5 children, 2 of them look like they might come out of that without too much emotional scarring.
Yeah. I don't know.
So
I don't know. It's just
yeah,
frustrating.
extremely.
It's just frustrating, you know?
I'm glad the biggest drama I have to deal with in my house right now is my wife wants yard chickens.
As somebody who raised chickens,
Hmm.
you don't want fucking
That's
chickens.
what I keep telling her, and she goes, "But they're so cute." And I'm like, "They're chickens.
No. Do you know how much work they
I
are?
know. I used to tend chickens when I lived in Bell Canyon with yeah, we had chickens and horses and
Yeah.
no.
You gotta feed them. You gotta put the scraps. You gotta
Mhm.
shovel fucking 5 fucking 1,000 pounds of shit
Mhm.
out of the pen.
And we have natural
Mm-mm.
predators down here, like coyotes and hawks,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
she's like, "But there's chicken wire." I'm like, "You can just leave them in the coop all day."
And
So, yeah. No.
fuck.
Yeah, no
You
yard
know?
chickens. Sorry. I approve the pygmy goat because the pygmy goat means I wouldn't have to get out there and mow the lawn every weekend.
You guys have a pygmy
No,
goat?
but I would approve one.
Fair enough.
I have
Okay.
fencing around the entire yard. I would get a pygmy goat and let it go to town on the lawn.
Oh man. I mean, chickens would do the same thing.
Yes, but
That
they're
lawn would be gone.
yeah, they'd be gone, scratched up. Yeah,
Yep. Yeah, no
no
chickens.
chickens.
Like,
No bucks. I don't care how much eggs
the
start costing.
the only thing that was good about chickens was the fresh
Yeah.
eggs. That was it. That was I felt like, especially as like, the kid growing up with my family and I tended the chickens all the time. It was like daily chores and shit. like the exchange ratio for delicious hen to mouth eggs
Mhm.
versus the shitting and the shoveling and the constant feeding and watering
Mhm.
and making sure that the chickens weren't eaten, because I think we also had a coyote problem too at some point, or some kind of predator
Mhm.
that murdered some chickens. Um, like
Might
it's
have been
just
one of
like
your
it's
neighbors that
a
didn't like waking up, at 4 o'clock in the morning to roosters.
no. The roosters got slayed. We killed those. I've told probably all of the rooster slaying stories, of which there were 4, and they were all unique and weird, on the show before. Not going to belabor the point. If you want to find those fucking shows, fucking figure it out. Work fam. Don't get roosters. That's the lesson. Don't get them. Don't need them. Don't want them. Useless. And also terrible meat,
Mhm.
I might add, if you want to eat one. Because the chicken you eat, guess what? It's female. It's not fucking rooster meat,
Mm-mm.
that's for fucking sure. Um, yeah. So, yeah, that's more or less what's going on in the life as of late. I think before we jump to entertainment, we do have a question from our very own Discord cheerleader, Sean Mason.
Mhm.
And you'll have to help me decipher this question since it involves sports.
Yeah, see.
He said,
Yeah.
I've got a good one. You need to make a pickup basketball team of 5.
Mhm.
You can choose any Nintendo character to be on your team. You guys draft a team and let us decide which team would win.
Well, see, I have an unfair advantage knowing how the sport of basketball works over
Okay.
you. Um,
Yeah.
how do I explain this to you in a way that would make any sort of sense? Because do you follow any bit of any sport? I mean, like, I know you understand the premise of basketball is put the ball through the hoop.
Yeah. And there's a court and they squeak
Yes.
and they're tall people
Yes. But some are
in
taller than
shorts.
others for reasons.
I don't know.
I don't, Sean, as much as I love this question, I don't know that we are qualified to answer this question because where I
I mean,
have
I'm
the
gonna pick 5 Nintendo
yeah,
characters.
where I
That's what
have
I'm
the
gonna do.
basketball knowledge, I don't have the Nintendo backlog history knowledge because I was a Sega boy. I came up on the Sega Master System to the Genesis, then straight to PC during that era, during the SNES, GameCube, um, Nintendo 64 era, and PC, and then when Xbox came out, the OG, you know, room heating VCR, that's when I jumped back into console. So my Nintendo library knowledge is very limited.
All right, so I'm picking my team
Okay.
for basketball here. I'm writing it in the Discord as we speak. I expect you to do the same.
Okay. I
All
see.
right, so
I
I'm gonna
see that
do.
Tim is typing.
Obviously, we're gonna do Link. You know, he's the hero of time. Got a sword and shield. I feel like that he would know what to do with a basketball.
Okay.
Um,
He'd
feel
probably be really
like
good with assists.
feel like gonna do uh, Captain Falcon
Ooh.
because he's tall. He's the main racing guy in the F-Zero franchise.
Okay. So he's
Yep.
just tall.
I mean, sure. Captain. Am I spelling that wrong? Cap.
Captain.
So we got Link, we got Captain Falcon. I'm gonna do. You're not gonna know these. These ones are
See this? Yeah,
definitely
you're gonna
ones you
get
would know.
obscure on me now.
Yeah, I'm gonna go obscure. We're gonna do Uni from Xenoblade Chronicles 3 because I feel like she would be good at sports
That and you're
and
just
also tall.
trying to curry Sean's favor by bringing up the JRPGs.
100% because I know he's a Xenoblade fan.
Uh-huh.
We're gonna do Pyra, who's from Xenoblade Chronicles 2, and also in Super Smash Brothers. So I feel like she would also be fantastic, and probably look also fantastic in basketball sportswear.
Okay.
So let's see. So 5. So Link, Captain Falcon, Uni, Pyra. You know what? I'm gonna do Rosalina as well. She's from the Mario franchise, but she's a space princess and she floats, so I feel like that would be good on the court.
Okay.
That's
Okay.
That's what I'm doing.
All right. That's with my limited knowledge.
As you Google Nintendo
No,
list of characters.
No, I'm going with my. Okay, for my center, I am going with Bowser.
So I thought about Bowser,
Yes.
but
I figured I'd let you pick yours.
I don't know basketball and you know less Nintendo characters. I decided to leave you an easy one.
I appreciate that one because he makes a good center. He's got some pretty decent hops. Like you've seen him jump in the air. So he could definitely do some blocking. For my point guard.
Okay.
Hold on. Let's see. Point guard. Just because this fucker doesn't miss, I'm going to take Mega Man.
Mega Man's not a Nintendo character.
Yes, he is.
No, he is not. He's owned by Capcom.
When did he premiere?
Capcom. He is not a Nintendo character. Just because he's in Super Smash Brothers.
Was he ever
does
on
not
the console?
Mean he's a Nintendo character.
So Xenoblade is a Nintendo-only IP?
Yes, Xenoblade is a Nintendo-only IP owned by Nintendo.
Well, see, now you just screwed me even more.
Not my fault you don't know your Nintendo characters,
Well,
Nate.
he is a Nintendo character. His game was on Nintendo. Multiple of his games were on Nintendo. You know what else?
His game was on? The Genesis.
Yes, and Sonic is currently in Smash Brothers. That doesn't make him a Nintendo.
So is Mega Man. Yes. But Super Smash Brothers has other video game characters. You can't keep him. He's not a Nintendo character.
I'll let Sean decide.
That's illegal.
I will let Sean decide.
Sean's going to side with me on this one. I'm telling you right now.
That is fine. Then for my defense, and you're probably going to ding me on this one, my
can't wait for it. I can't wait.
Kirby.
For what? Okay, Kirby is a Nintendo character.
Okay. So I'm taking Kirby because...
See, that one's allowed.
He will steal the ball from everyone just by going...
Yes, he will. He's not going to give it back, though. It's just going to go in his mouth.
He'll
He'll probably swallow it.
Right?
Yeah, the poo.
He'll poo and pass it out to someone else, so he's probably going to be really good for assists.
Okay. Still can't have Mega Man.
Huh?
I said you still can't have Mega Man.
I'm keeping him.
He's owned by Capcom.
Okay. It's fine.
And actually, I don't even think Mega Man premiered on Nintendo.
Okay.
Mega Man. I'm actually going to research this right now.
Can I take Samus?
That's not how you say her name, but Samus is a Nintendo character. Yes. And actually, I am sad. Now that you said it, I am bemused with myself that I didn't say that.
Okay. So I need one more. No, I gotta forward, and I
So
need
Mega
to.
Man, the original game, did premiere on the Nintendo Entertainment System. That is true, but he is owned and has always been owned by Capcom,
It's fine. It was officially
not a Nintendo
licensed.
character. It's not how it works if it's published and created and developed by Capcom.
Okay.
The only license they had was to put it on the fucking cartridge.
Mm-hmm. Did they put it on any other cartridge?
That's not how it works, Nate.
That's how it works in my world.
You are showing how much old man gamer you are right now. And people are going, no, Nate. And they're putting their hands in their palms. They're face palming.
They are face palming. That's fine.
All right, how many are we up to?
I'm down to one more, and for my shooting
Okay.
guard, I am just going to take some low hanging fruit and go with Luigi.
Okay.
There, it's committed. Go ahead and type. Go ahead. Go ahead and disqualify me for Mega Man. I'm standing by it, and I think my 4-man team will probably beat your 5-man team anyways.
I mean, I don't know. Pyra's a literal god, so
Yeah, but can she ball?
probably. At the very least, I'm sure probably Rosalina and Bowser and Luigi have done basketball because there's a basketball Nintendo game.
Mm-hmm.
It's called Mario Strikers, I think.
And Samus could be the ball.
Oh, that she could. That she could.
She just
And
dunk herself.
for whatever reason, probably the same size as a basketball.
Well, disqualified or not, hopefully that was entertaining enough for you, Sean.
Yep. There you go. All right. Moving on. Entertainment. More sadness.
More sadness.
It's just
if you call
always
if you call
sadness.
trailers sadness.
Oh yeah, there's trailers.
Yes.
Oh yeah, I posted a bunch of trailers.
Mm-hmm.
I saw some trailers. Evil Dead Rise actually looks pretty good. It's a
Mm-hmm.
new Evil Dead movie. Not too much to say
Mandalorian.
other than it's Evil Dead and it's two sisters and a mom, and the mom's possessed.
Mm-hmm.
Looks good. There's a trailer for season 3 of The Mandalorian, which looks fucking amazing.
Mm-hmm.
We finally got a trailer for Foundation season 2, which I was surprised was coming out this year because I hadn't even fucking heard it was renewed.
Right.
I'm glad it was or is. Since obviously it was probably a extremely expensive show to make.
Mm-hmm. I started watching it. I stopped watching it because time and Apple Plus subscriptions.
me and the wife watched the trailer and we're like, this looks amazing. We'll need to rewatch the first season again to catch up with it. We have a trailer for Yellow Jackets season 2, which I'm very excited about, since Yellow Jackets was a surprise win for myself and my wife. It looks disturbing, which is pretty much the feeling of the show. So, and the creator apparently teased, slight spoiler for the fucking season 1. They were like, oh, you thought teenage cannibalism was as dark as we were going to get? Laughter. I'm like, oh shit. What do you got planned for us, you fucking crazy man? So that's a thing. On a note of Yellow Jackets, because me and the wife around this time last year, we watched Yellow Jackets, and we also watched an Amazon series called The Wilds, which was also fantastic, also about teenage girls being lost somewhere. Unfortunately, The Wilds has been canceled by Amazon, so there will only ever be 2 seasons, which is very unfortunate.
And see, this is one of those, like, I see Yellow Jackets and I see Foundation will probably be my exception to it. Someone I was listening to was like, I won't start getting into a show until it has at least 3 seasons.
Yeah, and honestly, I'm feeling more jaded in that direction every day.
Right.
Um, particularly with Netflix shows, particularly with anime. Like, I'll look at an anime and I'll be like, "Oh, that looks really good," and I'll look at it and it's like, "Oh, one season, huh?
Yep.
Nah, I don't think so."
Right.
Um, so this new Apple TV Plus TV show called Hello Tomorrow, coming out soon. Really fantastic trailer that gave me mega BioShock vibes.
Mm-hmm.
It looks like it takes place in an alternate history, 1950s, 1960s, where they actually did make hover cars and helper robots and stuff. And it's starring Billy Crudup, who I think is a phenomenal actor, as this kind of enigmatic, I guess, futurist salesman that's not all it's cracked up to be. And
Okay.
people are apparently going to get caught up in his web of them trying to go live on the moon. And it's supposed to be very bad and very dark from there,
Okay.
which is BioShock as fuck.
Right.
So
This
we
this
shall
sounds
see. I'm
sounds like
watching
the
it
old
with.
bomb shelter salesman back in the day.
Yeah. Like, brick.
Right.
It'll stop a nuke.
Right. Oh, this metal oil drum looking thing. That's where you're gonna
Yep.
live and you'll be able to live out the fallout. And you're like, I'm looking at this going, no, it's not gonna happen. There's not enough room for food in here for that long of time. Yeah.
Yeah, it's yeah. We'll see.
Yeah. The only thing that I like, obviously, I'm excited for Mandalorian coming back and
Yep.
Foundations at season 2. Um,
Hmm.
at the pace they moved at season 1 from the synopsises I've seen, it's gonna take what 2 more seasons at this rate,
I don't know, man.
right? And so I'm a little bit
One of us has read the books, one of us hasn't.
yeah, like at this point I might be getting it at best they could maybe squeeze it into 3 and then it won't be as good. So I'm kind of reluctant to
I don't know,
start
man.
this one until I see it finish. Um,
Okay.
and then a series that I'm very fond of, I'm actually glad it's coming to a finish, is Cobra Kai is coming back for its final season. Um,
Cool. Haven't delved
right?
into it. I've spoken before with shame, I believe, thrown my way.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Not by me,
you
I
know,
don't think.
the
Was it me? Did I shame you a little
maybe,
bit? Maybe I did.
probably.
But yeah, like
Um,
it has gotten to a point where there's not a whole lot more they can do to tug on that nostalgia. Um, the last
mhm.
season kind of was um more of the same.
Okay.
So like to see that this one was actually announced as the final season, I'm like, good, good. We can wrap this up. We can put it to bed and
Okay.
call it a good series, right?
Okay. Um,
And then what else was there?
now there's a bunch of depressing stuff.
I was gonna say there was one more that I saw a trailer. Oh, obviously, we're going to get the Picard trailer tomorrow.
Oh, that's tomorrow.
Yep, but you got to watch football to see it.
Nice.
Obviously, no, because it'll be on the internet 30
Guess
seconds
what's
after.
guess what's not happening.
Yeah, yeah, I believe
That
it's the halftime of the Bengals Chiefs game. They're premiering the Picard trailer.
gross.
Yep.
It'll be bootlegged on
Oh yeah,
fucking YouTube in
it'll
5
be on
minutes.
it'll be on Twitter. Yeah, it'll be on Twitter probably before the trailer even finishes.
100%.
So
Yep.
now the bad news.
All right.
I don't know that it's
So,
bad news. It's
and I
news.
actually have more bad news than what I posted here.
Okay.
So let's just get through it. We'll
Okay.
get to what we're watching. So Alec Baldwin is to be charged with involuntary manslaughter over the Rust shooting.
Mm-hmm.
We had a little debate on Discord
Mhm.
about this. You were saying fair, I guess, but also put the blame on the armor.
Mhm.
I'm like, that's also fair. Um, my wife's comment on it from a legal standpoint was he's an executive producer.
Sure.
If you're an actual honest executive producer and not a executive producer name only for the money, you would have known everything that was going on your movie set,
Right.
especially if you're fucking starring in it. So she thought that it was a fair judgment.
Yep.
My thing is just like, couldn't have happened to a nicer guy.
Yeah, and again, at no point was I like, no, he should go free. No, I think that's the right charge. You're the one that pulled the trigger, and but again, even as an executive producer, and I guess there's an assistant director that's now caught up in this as well. That's also,
Yeah, I
uh,
wouldn't be surprised. Yeah.
yeah, facing charges. And again, it's like you entrust people on that set to do their jobs properly. And now people are all pointing at the assistant directors going, well, I never announced that that was a cold gun. And it's just like, this is why you trust the people to do these things. And the
Mhm.
example I'd mentioned in the Discord is like, you look at a movie like John Wick to that scope and scale, if everyone was having to check their own stuff for every scene, that movie never gets made. Right.
Sure.
That's why you have the people do this. This isn't man on the street stuff. This is, completely controlled environments. And
Yeah.
yeah, so I don't think he should take the full brunt of it, but yeah, like that's the right charge.
Yep. Um, we had spoken last episode that Justin Roiland, uh, famous for the co-creation and voice of Rick and Morty,
Hmm.
also stars and co-created Solar Opposites. Um, Also executive producer on a TV show that I watched that I'll talk about on my Get My Watched stuff that I love, and I hope gets a second season.
Hmm.
Um, he has some pretty serious allegations, including assault and holding somebody or holding, I guess, an ex girlfriend against her will or something,
Right.
um, that are being put against him. Trial date's April. Warner Brothers has released him from his Adult Swim contract and has named Justin Harmon or Justin Harmon. Justin, fuck, what's his name?
It's not
Forgetting
Justin
his
Fuck. I
name.
will say that.
Yeah. Dan Harmon. All
There you
right,
go.
Justin,
Not Mark
because his
Herman.
name's Justin Roiland. Dan Harmon,
Okay.
the co-creator of Rick and Morty, as the sole creator and showrunner. Moving forward, Rick and Morty will continue
Hmm.
for seasons 8, 9, and 10. And that the voice of Rick and Morty will be recast, which will be perhaps a bigger deal since he was one of those voice actors who voiced half the fucking characters on the show.
Right.
Um,
Yeah, this is just going to be
in
a going forward or a retroactively.
Going forward.
Okay. Just rip that band-aid off and say, well, this is where
Yep.
we're at.
Yep. Production on season 7 is going strong, still set to somehow premiere this summer. So I don't know if that's going to be like a chunk of the episodes will be Justin, since it's perhaps done in the can because animation's done far out.
Sure.
And like by the end of the season, it'll be a different voice actor. I don't know.
All right.
I don't
You
know
wonder if
at
they'll
all.
do so starting this episode, like black screen fade in, starting this episode, you may notice that the certain character voices are, right?
I mean, they're probably not even going to do that because since Rick and Morty deals with multi-dimensional things, they'll probably just schlub it off as just like, I'm from a different dimension and move on.
Sure.
Like,
Yeah.
seeing as it's pretty a self-referential show, I wouldn't be surprised if it's even mentioned or made fun of. Like I could see it being even as savage as like, oh, Rick, you sound a little different this season. And they're like, oh, well, that's what happens when you lock up your ex in a in a thing and
Right.
lose a court case or something, like something as completely absurd as that.
Or
Even though that's
banging
not.
off screen, woman saying, "Let me out." Don't know what that's all about. Let's hop in the time machine.
Yeah, it
Yeah. Um,
could be
I
could be a
mean
thing.
that it's don't get too
In
close to
addition
your
to that,
don't get too close to your heroes, I guess. Yeah.
as I've said before, I think it's an innocent until proven guilty
Mm-hmm.
thing. The way Hollywood is treating, I
Everyone.
guess,
Yeah.
bad actors, so to speak,
Pardon the pun.
is pretty it's pretty cutthroat
Yeah.
these days after the old Johnny Depp thing. And obviously we don't know
Oh,
anything
even
about the girl's side of the story.
long before that, the
We'll
Kevin
know.
Spacey thing, the Harvey Weinstein thing.
True.
So it's like this has
Mm-hmm.
been an
Mm-hmm.
ongoing thing where you're guilty in the court of public opinion.
Well, and I'll say what I said last episode to reiterate. While I'm a firm believer of innocent until proven guilty, he's known to be a wily dude.
Mhm.
He's known to act or to drink to do the act of Rick on the show to the point where there's behind the scenes things of it,
Right.
on their YouTube pages, which I imagine are probably going to be struck down any day now.
There were pre-existing
So it could
concerns
be one of those
yeah.
things where he's a funny individual and a creative, but maybe he's not that good a guy.
Yep.
Or maybe it's a super fucked up situation and it's a crazy, it's an Amber Heard type situation.
Right.
Who's to say? We won't know until April.
Right.
But right now, that's what's happening with Rick and Morty. In addition to that, Hulu has released Justin Roiland from Solar Opposites as well, in which he also created and starred in and does voices and stuff as well. As well as Koala Man, which is a show that just came out like 2 weeks ago. I stumbled into and didn't even know that it was executive produced by him. I just saw it. I was like, all right, I'll give it a shot.
Yeah.
My personal vote to replace the Rick and Morty voice actor is a guy on TikTok going by the username Morty Says.
Okay.
And he's currently the fan favorite on Reddit right now because fucking goddamn.
I'm assuming he's an impressionist.
A really yes.
Okay.
He's not a professional voice actor. He's not a professional whatever. He just does it for fun. He's been doing it for years. But his thing went from 100,000 to 30 million right after this announcement, and people are championing for him. And honestly, I'm championing for him because I watched a reel of his and he swapped between Rick, Morty, Goofy, Shaggy, a ton of different complex voices, Donald Duck, all kinds of voices. And I was like, oh, this guy has some serious range. And if he could be wrangled into acting, shit.
Right.
He fits the bill.
Well, it kind of reminds me of, I don't know if you're familiar with the band Journey.
I am. I love Journey.
Right. When their front man decided he was calling it quits, they searched around for other people and they ended up falling on this little Filipino guy that sounds exactly like him. And they're just like, image be damned. This is the closest voice approximation. We don't have to change anything.
Sure.
So.
Yeah. The voice actor of Cleveland Brown in the television series Family Guy was recast because it had been a white actor playing a black guy for 20 fucking years.
That was Family Guy though.
Huh?
No, it was Family Guy. Yeah, not American Dad.
No, not American Dad. It was Family Guy, and there was a short-lived 3
Cleveland
season Cleveland show. But it died a long time ago. So in current standing, it was only Family Guy. But anyway, he got recast with a TikTok actor who does a chef's kiss, perfect, spot on voice. And other than the fact that you can kind of tell it's like so good, you kind of forget about it.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
As
So my
there's
hope
been
is that
recasts in The
someone like this,
Simpsons. Obviously, Meg was recast.
yeah, Meg's actually been recast several times.
Yeah.
Until landing on,
Mila Kunis.
Yeah, Mila Kunis of all people.
Right. And prior to that was Lacey Chabert, which like,
Yep.
yeah.
It's
So
like a whole thing.
it's not
Yeah.
without precedent.
Nope. I would say that this one just happens to be probably the most high profile since
Right.
it is the lead.
Right.
And, that's not happened on like Simpsons
Right.
or Family Guy or something like that.
Right.
So yeah, best of luck to everybody making that show,
Mhm.
powering forward. And, I mean, I obviously want the show to continue because I like the show.
Right. And maybe it does, and hopefully hopefully the court of public opinion is fine with what as I'd said
Yeah,
in the
and you
Discord
never
is,
and you never know.
it's a shareholder move. You got to do something to make your investors feel comfortable with continuing to invest in the show. And when you get something like this, even if it's allegation, they get
Sure.
real tight with their wallets. So you see this, and I think the example I brought up was Vince McMahon. WWE
Right.
founder and
Yeah, now he's back.
egomaniacal narcissist. And so again, when there were allegations of impropriety with him, you look at the character, which is a caricature, but it's not far off from the source material. And
Right.
they ousted him, and the family took over. And then once things settled back down, guess who's back to CEO of the WWE? So we'll see how that works, and hopefully um, the truth comes out and the appropriate judgments are made.
Yeah, so the the specific thing is domestic battery and false imprisonment, and he has actually been charged with felony on that.
Mhm.
Released on bail pending not guilty, and pretrial set for April 27th, 2023.
Sure.
The only other thing to mention on that, and we kind of glossed over it, was the Squanch Games, which is his video game
Right.
studio, who made the
The
recently released
High
on Life game to critical acclaim. He stepped down as president apparently 2 weeks prior.
Yeah,
to
that
all
was
of
the
this
first
stuff.
domino.
Nobody knew about it until the now new president of the studio was like, "Yep, he stepped down 2 weeks ago."
Yep.
That's it. That's all we're saying. So yeah, that's what's going on there.
Yeah.
More sadness. If you're a DC TV fan, Titans and Doom Patrol have been canceled. Everybody was quick to jump on, oh fuck James Gunn, DC television and movies is doomed. He responded to that this week, stating it was not his decision to cancel Doom Patrol and Titans, and said that it came from the top.
Okay.
Take that for what you will. I mean, the guy, that could have been something, since TV has a long runway as well as movies, that could have been something that happened a long time ago, and we're just finding out about it now.
Right, and it could just be another
actors
Warner,
are released from contracts and stuff.
a Warner red line.
Could be another Warner write-off. Classic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a shame.
So anyways,
that's like watching this whole Warner debacle, like Animaniacs
it's fucking
is done.
nuts.
Like that was another one that I heard it's done.
It's on Hulu though.
Yeah, but it's a Warner property. Like that was it.
I know it's a Warner Brothers. It's Warner. Yeah. It's Warner, Wacko, and Dot.
Right.
Like.
Yeah. It's just like it's a shame because the history behind that company and
fire fucking sale.
Right. But maybe that means that those IPs will end up in better hands. Other than if if not, it's just going to be Disney owns the world, the media world after this,
I mean, sure fucking looking that way.
right?
Sure fucking looking that way. And then the last bit of news is HBO's The Last of Us
Hmm.
has gotten an early season 2 renewal with the statement that season 2 will cover the events of The Last of Us Part 2.
Are you watching it?
Um, I am,
Okay, because
and we'll roll right into that right
as
now. What you watching, Nate?
oh, I'm not watching Last of Us. I haven't been watching
Why,
it because I haven't been watching anything lately.
Nate? It's been 2 weeks.
I understand this. And I'm waiting for some of the noise to die down. And I've actually been seeing some memes on Last of Us and one of them was I thought it was funny. So you'll have to tell me if it's appropriate or not. And it was
Okay.
PlayStation person walks in to Xbox person watching Last of Us, going, "Hey, this is a really good." Holds a gun to his head and said, "You said that about Halo." Or you got mad at me when I said that about Halo. So, is it deviating?
No.
Okay.
So, as a Last of Us fan, the Last of Us HBO show is the most faithful adaptation of a video game to screen I have ever seen.
Okay.
Hands fucking down. Um, a lot of fans are quick to point out, who are just video game fans in general, they point at the Halo TV show and say, see, look at The Last of Us. This is how you fucking do it.
Mhm.
You idiots. I'm not going to completely shit on the Halo TV show.
Sure.
It has its problems, and we'll see what fucking happens whenever the fuck season 2 gets around to it. Because you can bet your ass that that's happening because it was the most popular thing on Paramount.
Sure. And they've
Plus,
already released a trailer for it,
hands
if I'm
down.
not mistaken.
Nope,
Nope. Okay.
nope.
Thought I saw some.
I think we got what we got was like a splash, like 20-second, like the Halo logo, and then season 2.
Okay.
That's it, and we got that like last summer. So while I agree The Last of Us on HBO is super faithful as an adaptation, and follows the games very closely, sometimes verbatim, sometimes shot for shot, I will point out in defense of Halo. Number one, The Last of Us takes place in the real world, which is inherently way the fuck more easy to film
Sure.
than something that takes place in the fucking future with fucking space marines and aliens.
Right.
Just saying. It's a lot easier to, have a shirt tumbled in a thing with bricks to make it look old and disheveled in a post-apocalyptic setting than it is to make fucking Halo armor
Right.
that works on a practical set. Just fucking saying. It's also advantageous that Sony Television Pictures are the ones that are, making the fucking
Right.
show,
The people that
and
make
they
the
are
game. Yeah.
world-renowned television studio. One would argue at this point they make better TV shows than they do movies. And Sony owns them.
Right.
On top of that, I would argue also that despite the fire sale at Warner Brothers, anything that's got the HBO label on it proper, I'm not talking the HBO Max label, this has the proper HBO, bloop,
Yes.
like, it's, they really do quality in a way that I've only ever seen matched by Apple TV Plus shows. That all being said, they also have the actual fucking creator and writer of the game is an executive producer, oversaw the scripts, and fucking directed some of the episodes.
Sure. And and that's a credit to Sony owned.
Yes.
Right.
And again, comparing to Halo, Halo does not have a sole visionary creator and leader.
Right.
one could argue that the core of Halo is about 5 people,
Mhm.
and not all of them are together in the Halo franchise, nor are steering the ship currently.
Right. Or even at the same
So that
company.
being
Yeah.
said, yeah, or even at the same company anymore. So, of course, The Last of Us had a much better shot of being faithful and correct and hitting the mark.
Mhm.
That being said, there are some unique deviations that are not overly egregious, and you can be like, okay, I can see why they made that call rather than how it was handled in the game.
Mhm.
Um, there's like a couple of things, particularly in the first episode, where you're like, okay, now this is the part where the fucking tutorial for how to play the game occurs, and you do this, and this, and this, and this. And then it's like, oh, okay, there's an explosion. We're just skipping that. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Right.
That makes total sense because that's about 4 hours of gameplay there that don't really. No, we don't need it. We don't need it for the
But
fucking
yeah,
show.
they're not just randomly introducing out of timeline characters or killing off characters that are in later scenes.
Nope. Everybody who has died so far died in the game.
Right.
Yes, two episodes in.
Sure. And
'Cause
one of
that's the kind of game it
and
is.
again, I'm going to defer to your expert judgment on this. One of the other arguments I've heard about it being so faithful is that a lot of video game, Last of Us fans don't want to watch the game they just played. So they're almost mad that it is too faithful. And then the counter argument of that is this gets other people into the story,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, no, I've heard that argument. I don't think it's true since it's been a smashing hit for HBO
Mhm.
and lots of people are watching it. I spoke to one of my good friends, Jay, who apparently, I didn't know this, who's not really a gamer, but apparently he played like the first hour or two of The Last of Us on PS3
Mhm.
back in the day. And he was like, "Yeah, first episode basically covered where I stopped in the game." And then I was talking to him about the second episode. He's like, "Yeah, it was really good. Can't wait to see what happens next." And I was like, "Well, see how close it's following. You're in for a ride, my friend."
Mhm. Yeah, and
So
again, I'm all I'm
it's
all
doing
for
its
it.
job.
Yeah, I'm all for it bringing, again, faithful adaptations of well-told stories. And, for someone like me that's never been on a PlayStation, this will be
Yeah,
my experience of
it's
Last
gonna
of
be
Us.
perfect for
Yeah.
you. Yeah, and the thing too is it is authentically Last of Us.
Mhm.
Yes, the lead characters are played by different actors
Sure.
because, of course, they are. Well, except for one of them. One of them actually is the video game person. Um,
So they did have
but
their Cortana, huh?
no, I wouldn't say it like that. A central character, not a main character, is the same chick who played her in the video game.
Okay.
And even in the traditional HBO behind the scenes, she was laughing about it because she was like, "Yeah, the character I was playing is like 20 years older than the character I was playing, and here it is, like a decade later, and I've like aged into the character."
Right. It actually looks like the character now.
Yeah, right. Um, my big concern going into this was not Pedro Pascal's playing Joel Miller, because it's like, well, Joel Miller is a tough Southern older man,
Mhm.
which Pedro plays already in The Mandalorian. And but the real one going into this was Bella Ramsey, who ironically both actors were on Game of Thrones,
Mhm.
playing Ellie, being a big deal. Mostly because you didn't really see her much in the trailers at all. And so people, even like myself, I was like, I loved her in Game of Thrones. I don't think she looks like Ellie. I'm open to seeing how she acts.
Right.
You know, she's British. I don't know how good her English accent or her American accent's going to be. Can she capture the spirit of that character? And I can faithfully say, yeah, she feels authentically like Ellie. She just doesn't fucking look like Ellie. Um, something else that they bent over backwards out of their way, the zombies in the game, the clickers. Zombies is, of course, not the right word
Right.
for what they are
The
in this particular setting. The cordyceps infected
right.
humanoids. They apparently got like a bunch of fans to play the clickers.
Oh, that's
And
nice.
so, yeah, they were talking about like how they found a group of cosplayers and like that were also actors and they just did it. And they're like, "Sweet." And then they used them and it's like, "Oh, yeah, that's great." And I've been listening to they have their own podcast for it. Ironically, which is hosted by the original actor of Joel, Troy Baker,
Mhm.
a famous voice actor. Um, and there's some interesting details in there. Like one of the big deviations in the show from the game is so in the game, um, the infection can spread by bite or spores. And so in the game, there's huge sections where you're like putting on a gas mask and you got to like go through a section that is infected because there's spores everywhere. And so in the podcast behind the scenes they were looking at, they were like, we tried everything to do the spores. There was just no freaking way to do it practically
Mm.
or without it looking like a crappy Adobe After Effect.
Ugh.
They're like, so we made the hard call to get rid of it in this version of The Last of Us, and they instead changed it to there's always been fungal growth everywhere
Mhm.
in the games, but they changed it to if people step on like a vine or something, it alerts the hive, so to speak.
Okay.
And I was like, okay, that's a fair change,
Right.
especially when they're like, we tried, we really did. There's no way to make it not look dumb
Right.
or cheesy. um, so it's little things like that, and again, going back to how authentic it is, they have the fucking composer from the game. Like, so it's like the music, like the directing, like all of the things, like down to almost a T,
Mhm.
apart from some actors and some stuff and some slight short story changes. It's The Last of Us, just in story mode
Cool.
and with people. So for people like you, it's perfect. I highly recommend it. Um, it's curious to me that they said that that Last of Us season 2 is going to cover the events of The Last of Us Part 2, mostly because like the first Last of Us game is about a 30-hour game, and then Last of Us Part 2 is about a 60-hour game, covers a much larger swath of story. And I'm just like, so you're telling me season 1 is going to cover the whole game in 8 episodes?
Roughly
Okay.
how many hour episodes?
The first one is a special hour and a half one, and
Okay.
then the rest are like normal hour
Okay.
shows. And then the further question, because they've said before the show came on, was they weren't going to do like in the show wasn't going to cover anything past the games. And I'm like, well, if season 1 is the first game and season 2 is somehow going to do the events of the second game, and assuming it's still super ultra successful, I would imagine HBO would want to do a fucking season 3. And my thought is, I mean, is a third game secretly coming out
Right. But
sometime in
here's it
2025?
and here's the thing, like, with it's not like, Game of Thrones where HBO was running it and going, "Hey, we ran past the book." Uh,
Yeah.
right? It's Sony Studios doing this, so
Yep.
they could conceivably say, "This is what the next game's gonna be," which at that point, like, why would you play the game if you just watched the show?
Yeah.
Like, that's
So I don't know.
yeah.
We'll cross that bridge when we get to it. You
Yes.
know, we'll see.
Unless they
see.
just see what it is and they make seasons 2 and 3, uh, the full breadth of Last of Us 2, if you're saying it's double the, story length of Last of
Yeah,
Us, so but
yeah.
imagine if it doesn't get
From a
renewed and they
game
yeah,
perspective.
imagine if it doesn't get renewed and they Sarah Connor Chronicles it, and
Oh, I mean, well, then it would have. Assuming season 2 is just as good as season 1, well, then they would have created the best adaptation of a video game ever.
right?
Pretty much hands down. So we've been watching that. Like I said earlier, I binged watched the whole season's out. It's on Hulu. Show called Koala Man.
Mhm.
It is a so I watched a trailer for this because it's like an Australian, it's very Australian. Like so it's like an entirely Australian production, but animated by Americans, I guess. And apparently executive produced by Justin Roiland.
Mhm.
And stars Hugh Jackman and is executive produced by him as well. And it is, if you mixed Family Guy, King of the Hill, and superheroes into a show, but in Australia.
Okay.
So the basic premise is there's a guy that's very Hank Hill, like by the book, like getting after people for grass being above the regulation
Mhm.
height for the district code or some shit like that. But he's having a midlife crisis, and so he thinks he's a superhero, Koala Man. And he's like trying to go around to stop crime, but he has no superpowers. He's just a middle-aged, balding, kind of round fella.
Right.
And I watched the first episode and I was like, okay, that was not too bad. Like I'll give it another episode because pilots, sometimes they're rough around the edges. And they really kind of had their shit together in episode 2. And then I watched the whole rest of the fucking series. And I was like, fuck, I want this show to get renewed like yesterday. That was fantastic. It has just the right amount of like absurdist humor, but then like that special King of the Hill flavor that I guess
Right.
appeals more and more to me as an aging adult.
Dang
Where
it,
it's just
Bobby.
like
Yeah.
like comically stupid. They have like a whole fucking episode about how like he's got a wife and he's got 2 kids, you know, again, typical fucking animated
Mhm.
sitcom kind of scenario. And like they have a whole fucking episode where they ban as they call them in Australia, fizzy drinks, so
Mhm.
soda pop, in the schools, and then the kids at the school like start like an underground like bootleg thing to get the soda into the schools, and they're treating it like cocaine addiction kind of thing, even though it's not, and they're like he's like hunting down, he's like beating up people in the school, like, where are you getting the sodas from? It's not regulation. Or
Oh,
whatever, and
jeez. He's
it's just
basically an
so
HOA
silly.
Karen. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just so silly and absurd because it's such a simple thing
Mhm.
to do an entire fucking episode on, which is really one of the things that King of the Hill did fantastically. Have a whole fucking episode about Hank trying to find the right fucking part at a fucking store,
Mhm.
Um, and it just does that so well, and it's just got this weird mix of stuff. And then of course Hugh Jackman in there. He plays the day job version of the main character. He's just like this like weird roided up office man who used to do like god, what was that guy who sadly died, the guy who'd wrangle all the animals, he's Australian.
Oh, Steve
uh
Irwin,
Yeah, he's like
the crocodile
he's
hunter.
like a
Yeah.
he's like a weird roided up Steve Irwin. Like he even says he's like a washed up TV star or whatever. And it's like Hugh Jackman, and it's so weird to hear Hugh Jackman, a, because he is Australian, and like because of how people talk over in Australia, like people be say like, you fucking cunt
Yeah.
or whatever, like all the time. And it's just so bizarre to hear him say that. And they have like other famous Australian actors, like Hugo Weaving plays like a fucking turkey in an episode. And it's strangely good. And I just found myself this is just the right amount of like mundane but funny, but like, oh, I relate to that issue more or less,
Okay.
kind of thing. So people are on the fence about something. Check out Koala Man. Hope it gets renewed for season 2. So did that. I dove into another new show, which I was really skeptical about because on paper it's not at all my bag. But I dove into it. I'd heard about it because it's been out for a couple of weeks now. It's called Shrinking. It's on Apple TV
I've
Plus.
seen. Okay. Yeah.
It stars Jason Segel and Harrison Ford, of all fucking people. And I was like, I don't know. I watched the trailer and it's like, I don't know. That doesn't really seem like my bag. But I watched it because I saw an interview, and you're not going to get this because you still haven't seen Ted Lasso. But basically, there's a character in Ted Lasso who also happens to be one of the people who executive produces and writes the show.
Mm-hmm.
And he was interviewing for this thing because I guess it's his show. It's his next show because Ted Lasso's wrapped with season 3. It's done. It's concluding this year, and it's already in the bag.
Right.
And so he's already got another show, and it's already out. And I was like, okay, well, I really liked fucking Ted Lasso, and he's like one of the 2 minds besides himself and Jason Sudeikis who made that shit happen. So I was like, all right, I'll give this a go. And I gotta admit, it's pretty fucking Ted Lasso-y in the best possible way. It has like the right amount of altruistic. I can't say. Thank you. Altruistic hope for humanity and like kindness, but also humor and like human emotion that like I can only describe as Ted Lasso like.
Right.
You got to see this show, Nate, so you know what the fuck I'm talking about. So yeah, I'm gonna keep watching it, and it's basically the gist is it's about a shrink who apparently lost his wife and is basically having a fucking breakdown about it. And he just starts telling his fucking patients off and like what they should be fucking doing instead of just sitting and telling all their bitches to him and stuff. Like there's like I think in the trailer it's one of these things like he just loses it and he's like, shut the fuck up. Fucking leave him. You're in an abusive relationship, you dumb bitch. You need to go fucking move in with your sister. Like that kind of thing. And they're like, are you supposed to be talking to me like that? No. And my wife died. They're like, oh God. And he's like, I definitely shouldn't have told you that. Like that kind of thing.
Okay.
And then Harrison Ford just playing Harrison Ford, a grumpy old curmudgeon. So, but yeah, I've seen the 2 episodes that are out right now. It's fantastic. Gotta say, has that Ted Lasso charm, which is what I was looking for. So, there's that. Me and the wife, we're watching the final season of Servant on Apple TV Plus, where shit got really real, really fast in that show. I think I had said before that it's a very weird, very slow burn type of show. And shit just went fucking off the hook wild in the first episode of this season. Fucking people were dying. There were crows pecking people's eyes out. I was like, what the fuck is happening in this show right now? There's fucking murders, and I was like, what the fuck is happening?
I don't want to see that.
It was wild. Basically it feels kind of like since it's the final season, they're like, all right, fuck it, here we go. So there's that. Me and the wife are on season 5 of True Blood.
Still having fun with it?
Still enjoying it.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's gotten silly.
It's weird.
Yeah.
I keep waiting for the point where it just went off the deep end, and I feel like it kind of did. There was like witches and werepanthers and
Hmm.
fairies and all kinds of shit, but I feel like it's also better than I remember. Like the later seasons are better than I remember. Because I feel like when I was
Sure.
younger, I don't know, my tolerance for bullshit was just lower, I guess. And
Right.
now I'm like,
Fuck it. Yeah.
yeah, fuck it. Watching anything else? I don't think so.
Yeah. Yeah, the only thing I'm keeping up on, and that's what's very quickly coming to an end, is my football seasons.
Mm-hmm.
This weekend is the AFC and NFC championship games to determine who is going to the Super Bowl. If we win, that game will be in 2 weeks. So when we record next, if for some reason I somehow happen to get a ticket to the Super Bowl in Arizona this year, I might have to miss the episode or record from a hotel.
Kind of an odd state for a Super Bowl.
They randomly, they like kind of like the Olympic sites, they pick out,
Mm-hmm.
cities bid for it.
Yeah.
But yeah, Arizona, Glendale, Arizona, just recently, like they renovated the stadium and built up a whole
So
thing
there's a
around it.
Glendale, California, and a Glendale, Arizona.
Yes, there is.
Weird.
Yeah, like last year's Super Bowl was at down here at SoFi in Inglewood after they
Okay.
after they commissioned an entire area down there and just basically made a brand new thing. So yeah, but they tend to play in either indoors or warmer states.
Okay.
So Arizona definitely fits the bill for February,
Yeah, for
not
sure.
being don't play that shit in Detroit
Not
where
rainy.
it's snowing. Yeah.
Yeah, or fucking here in Seattle.
So
It's been fairly warm, and we got the notification that it's going to be in the 20s tonight.
mm-hmm. Yep.
I'm like, oh, well, okay then.
We've been in the 60s, gotten into the 70s this week, and apparently the rain is coming back in tonight. So more cold, more wet.
Fair enough. I think that's it.
That's it.
We did it. We did all the things.
Yay.
Oh, no sound effect? I was expecting a sound effect. Oh, that sounded terrible. It sounded like a horrible, like muxed MP3 that was taken off of a... Okay, there it is. Better. All right, this has been another episode of the Work in Your Ear podcast with me in your ear.
And me in your other ear.
And that's not weird at all. we out. Thank you for listening to a Dynamic Works production podcast. You can find our podcast at www.dynamicworksproductions.com. Feel free to email us at dynamicworks@mac.com.
This is Dominic Armato, the voice of Guybrush Threepwood, and you're listening to a Dynamic Works production podcast.
The Citadel, Arrival, is the first installment in a series of epic science fiction short stories reminiscent of the Pulp Fiction style. It's a fast-paced story that will take you through twists and turns that you will not expect, until they are thrust upon you with all the force, excitement, and chaos of a plasma cannon blast. The story follows Katarl, a nobody cog in the working wheels of a futuristic society run completely by Megacorp, a corporation that carefully runs and manages the lives of the people living under its sphere of power. On one of Katarl's few and far between days off from work, an outing he had hoped would be fun and relaxing turns into an explosive adventure that drags him kicking and screaming into situations and challenges that will make him question every aspect of his life. Watch this colorful tapestry unfurl as Katarl and his newfound allies find their way through this classic, yet oddly surprising tale of good and evil, where nothing is quite what it appears to be. That's The Citadel, A Rival by author Tim K.A. Trotter, available right now on Amazon Kindle Store and iTunes iBookstore for only $2.99.
Hello, sir.
Hey.
Hey. Why is my camera always out? Because cats, that's why. Oh, man. There we go. What's happening there, hot stuff? I said, what's happening there, hot stuff?
I'm a little bit buzzed.
Oh. Okay. I'm assuming that's a good thing. Yeah.
We'll see.
Okay. I got a weird buzz coming from something.
You are exceptionally loud in my ears for some reason.
And you are not, which is odd.
Okay.
But you're peaking all the meters the same way as you usually do, so.
Okay.
Might be.
Testing on my side. Babadoo. Yeah, no, we're barely getting to 18 decibels there. So we should be fine. Presumably.
Oh, that would help. Seems that the children have been playing with my knobs. That'll do it.
At least it's, I don't know. I guess that's probably better than the other term for knob. Playing with the...
Yes.
the recording equipment knob.
Jeez.
A bit better.
Yes. Lord knows my...
You have a large thing. I noticed my Discord updated today on Mac. And in our DM, you have like some chibi characters in your profile, like on your banner. What's that about?
Chibi profile. Oh.
It's like
yes. It's the scene
like
from Office Space where they're destroying the printer.
Oh. I've seen that movie.
Yes. So
now that you say it.
Now that you see that scene, you go, aha. Okay. Yes. I thought it was rather cute seeing them chibi style. I could make that my banner. And the people that know, and the people that don't, well, fuck them. I don't need to know those people.
Fair enough. I mean, I didn't know immediately.
Well, yes.
Now that you said it, though, I do get it. Although it's not a printer in the picture. It looks like it's a cartridge-based system of some kind.
Is it?
Yeah, in the picture.
Here we go. Hey, that works.
Putting your glasses on?
My blue blocker glasses.
Oh. You have some Gunners or something?
No, they're standard Oakleys, but I had these lenses specifically treated with the blue blocker in them for...
Fair.
These are supposed to be my office-only glasses. My office space glasses, as it were.
I see. Well, everything's rolling on my end.
Likewise. Are we streaming or are we forgoing that?
Don't care.
Don't care. Well, I could deal with less headache, so we can
Yeah, we don't have
forego
to.
that.
It's not like anybody's gonna watch us anyway.
Yeah, hasn't been. There we go.
Sadness.
Womp womp womp. There, and I get that stupid streamer mode thing off my Discord.
Hey, at least we got another question from Sean.
Yes, an interesting one at that. Because of course he had to pick the one system I'm not, intimately familiar with.
Basketball?
Well, no.
Or Nintendo.
Nintendo. I was a Sega boy, so.
I feel like, have we never covered that before? You were a Sega boy? I was a Sega boy too.
Yeah, I started with the Master System when everyone else had their NESs.
Oh, okay. I was a Genesis kid.
Yes.
I understand the Master System existed. Technically, I held one in my hands.
I even had the 3D
ran on the same chipset.
I even had the 3D glasses and their flickering 15 frames per second, 30 total, whatever it was, the diopter LED screen or LCDs. That was a fun.
For the Master System?
It plugged into the card slot.
Good Lord.
I even had a couple of the card-based games.
Like I said, I never experienced the original hardware. I just got the repackaged microprocessor version in the Game Gear because it was the same chipset.
Gotcha. Oop. I moved something.
Because that was the joke, apparently, way late in life, where because there was a Sonic the Hedgehog game on Game Gear, but it was actually just a straight up rip port of the Master System version.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah, it was a whole thing.
Before we get rolling, let me go grab me a libation, since you already seem to be ahead of me.
I have already libated the shins. Wow, dog's extra. Whatever.
Be right back.
Damn.
That's right. Why did that feel wrong? Because I had them on the wrong ears.
Do you have your headset reversed?
Mm-hmm. Oh, come on.
That thing.
Hmm?
Having your headset reversed?
Yeah. Yeah, it can be put on the wrong way. It'll just, for this purpose, it probably wouldn't make a difference, but, when you've worn something long enough, it kind of molds to certain things.
Mm.
So you put it on and you go, that doesn't feel right.
Yep.
And that's what it was. I put it on, I'm like, why does my couch cushion feel different?
Mm.
And
Are you sitting on a couch cushion?
No. Turn a phrase. Sorry.
Fair enough.
Yeah,
I understood it.
Yeah. You ever sit on your couch and it feels wrong? You wonder why. It's like, how would you ever know? Your butt knows. And in this case, my butt head knows. Oh, geez.
Butt head knows. Okay. Well, there you go. Fair enough.
That was a very explosive popping of a bottle cap. Cheers.
Oh, I didn't hear it at all.
Yeah. I'm hoping my kids didn't.
Guinness.
We're doing the Guinness. All right.
I can never get into Guinness.
I
understood its purpose in life.
It didn't grow on me until probably later in life, probably right about the age you are now.
Okay.
They say your palate changes every 7 or so years, and yeah, I've got that on you.
I agree that palates change as the years go by, and then sometimes they betray you, and you become
oh yes. That's not the palate, but yes,
it's fucking something.
Yes. All right, let's mark her and get this show on the road.
Okay.
I've got kiddos, extra kiddos tonight. So yeah, 3.
You have extra.
Yeah. In 3.
3.
2.
2.
1.
1.
Cut in.
Cut in.